Okay, good evening. I will call to order this organization meeting of the School Board of Clay County, Florida, the 22nd day of November 2016 at 7 p.m. This meeting is called pursuant with Section 100137 of Florida statutes to administer the oath of office for our newly elected officials and for the purpose of organizing the school board by electing a chair and a vice chairperson. I will ask Pastor James Price from Celebration Church to give an invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I know I'm supposed to give the invocation, but there's something that I'd like to say. My name's James Price. I'm a pastor at Celebration Church, and I want to thank you for inviting me here. This is a special honor. You and your family, thank you for being here on this special day, and for Clay County Schools. This is my first board meeting ever, so thank you. Before I do, I gotta say one thing. Every time during a political season and campaigning and thing, I see signs and I see people's names and everything, and after a while, it just becomes a blur, and I just never pay attention to it until a couple of weeks ago. I'm driving down the street, and I actually see a sign that has something that I've never seen before, ever. I'm from Pennsylvania. I don't know how you guys do it here, but I've never seen it. Guess what it said on it? Thank you. It said thank you, and I've never seen that before. And so immediately I was like, I got to get this guy's number. So somebody from my church gave me his phone number, and I called him. I had a meeting with him. And here's what I was thinking. Anybody who cares to do the little things by putting thank you on a sign is the sign of somebody who cares about the little things of the people. So I would just like to pray at this time, okay? Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. God, I thank you for the school board. I thank you for Superintendent Davis and all those who are elected in. Father, I thank you, God, that they will continue to be passionate. I thank you for their strength and their leadership. I thank you that they're not only concerned with the academic excellence, but the development and the well-being of the students. God, I thank you for every facilities person, custodian. I thank you for substitute teachers, for administrators, principals. I thank you for PTA. I thank you for parents, everybody involved. I thank you that they will come alongside this man and help him, Father. I thank you that in Exodus chapter 18, verse 19, Moses learned real quick that if you're going to move a large group of people, you cannot do it alone. And so I thank you for that, God. And I thank you that as Superintendent Davis ever gets weary, ever doesn't have the answers to the questions that are upon him every day, I pray that he would turn back to your word. So we thank you for that. In Jesus' name, the name above every name. Everybody in agreement, please say amen. Thank you.
Please be seated. I will ask the Honorable Tim Collins to come forward to administer the oath of office for Addison Davis, newly elected Superintendent of Schools, for Carol Studdard, re-elected for District 2 School Board seat, for Mary Bola, newly elected District 4 School Board seat.
And if we could have the hello, if we could have the Superintendent of Schools family come up.
Could somebody get a microphone that works so that the video gets it for his family? Is that microphone not working? This,
All right, if you let's see, raise your right hand. There we go. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I'm duly qualified
that I'm duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well
and that I will
and fully perform the duties of superintendent of schools,
the duties of superintendent of schools,
on which I am now about to enter.
in which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
That one may be a little low.
Judge Collins, can we get a hold of you as well? Sure.
It's hot in here. It's hot in here. Thank you.
All right, can we have Miss Stutter's family come up too, please? Gotta come up here. You're gonna stand over there. Who's gonna hold the Bible? Come over here. Stand right over here, sir. Good. We'll try this together here. All right. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I'm duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I am well
and that I am well
and fully perform the duties
and fully perform the duties
of school board member,
of school board member,
District 2,
District 2,
on which I am now about to enter,
on which I am now about to enter.
so help me God.
So help me God. Come on, Judge. Here comes the judge.
If we have Ms. Bola's family come up too, please.
The rest of the family's here in spirit. They are.
All right, the other way. There we go.
I'm left-handed.
Listen, people do it all the time. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the state of Florida
of the state of Florida
and the United States,
and the United States,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully perform
and faithfully perform
the duties of school board member,
the duties of school board member,
District 4,
District 4,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
Oh, so help me God.
As superintendent, I want to congratulate the new board members and welcome aboard. And thank you to the Honorable Tim Collins for taking the time to swear us in, and also for Pastor Price. So thank you so very much for being here this evening. I will now open the floor for nominations for chair.
I nominate Janice Karakas.
I'll second.
Do we have any other nominations? Mrs. Janice Kirikas has been nominated for chair. Are there any other nominations?
I move the nominations be closed.
Okay, no further nominations, so I close the nominations. All in favor for Ms. Janice Kirikas signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Congratulations, the new chair for the school board is the majority of the vote will be Mrs. Janice Kirikas. I will now open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Carol Studdard.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Ms. Carol Studdard has been nominated for vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Here are no further nominations. I will now close the nominations for vice chair. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Ms. Carol Studdard. You're the vice chair for the school board. Congratulations. This concludes the organizational portion of our meeting. I will now turn the gavel over to our new chairperson, Mrs. Kirikas, for our next order of business.
Thank you, Superintendent. That sounds nice, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am, excited.
We're excited for you. The next item in the organization of the board is to establish date and times for the schedule of the regular school board meeting for the upcoming year. I recommend that the board approve the calendar establishing meeting dates and times for regular school board meetings for the period of December 2016 through November 2017. I'll entertain a motion from the floor. Well, there's nothing on an agenda here. We normally meet the third Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. So because it's not posted on the agenda, we have to entertain a motion.
Okay, I know you're supposed to have discussion after a motion, but we had received information from the superintendent, and I'd like for him to state that before I make a motion.
Yes, ma'am. Through the chair, I would like to potentially move through collaboration with the board the meeting from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. I think that will provide sufficient time and be consistent with the Chamber of Commerce meetings along with City Council meetings at 6 o'clock, and afford us potential opportunity if we have to extend our meeting at any point in time, another additional hour to do so. And additionally, I'd like to talk about potentially moving it to the first Thursday as well. But more importantly now, to really discuss about moving it to 6 o'clock from 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Continue on the third Thursday.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Well, then, in order to get discussion on the floor, I'll move that our meetings for this coming year be on the first Thursday of each month at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And that way, if I can get a second, then we can discuss it.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? I have a motion by Mrs. Studdard and a second by Mrs. Condon. Any discussion?
The only thing I could think of is for next month. That's 2 weeks
Yeah.
away.
Right.
But aside from that,
Absolutely agree, and potentially starting this in January 2017.
Okay?
And moving with where we currently are for December to be fair to the community and every stakeholder.
One other question. Disciplinary hearings often are prior to our meeting, and we've cut it pretty close
Right.
See, I
with
I
our
would
meeting
like
at
the,
7. So
We had
discussed
talked at the
possibly
last disciplinary hearing
moving it
about
up.
possibly having it on a separate day, so I would be agreeable to that if y'all are.
that's fine by me.
And since all of us are available during the day, we could maybe do it during school hours so staff isn't having to come afterwards. And
Sure.
you've got children in school, wouldn't interfere with daycare.
Yep.
So we can just reach consensus on when we have disciplines. You can see what works for everybody.
Absolutely.
So do we want to schedule discipline hearings at this meeting or wait until we consult with
It's
staff?
not anything that we actually have to have a motion on.
Okay.
It can just be general consensus. That's how it's always been.
Okay.
It's not scheduled as specifically always 4 o'clock on the third Thursday of the month. It's how we've done it, but it's not required to be that way, so their flexibility is whatever it prefers.
Okay.
So this would just be establishing the first Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. as our adopted date and time.
And allow me to amend my motion that the exception would be the December meeting, which we will still have it on the third Thursday. And will it be at 7 o'clock?
We can continue if you feel that it's fair.
And then just start fresh in January?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, in 2017 move
Okay.
forward.
Okay.
How does this affect the January meeting? When do the kids come back from school and staff?
I believe it's the 5th, January 5th or 6th, somewhere around there. I
So
think
it would
that-
be the first week back.
Yes, ma'am.
You want that?
I'm fine. We will-
He's ready.
Yep.
All right.
We will be
All right.
prepared.
So we have a motion by Mrs. Studdard, a second by Mrs. Condon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries
You'll
5-0.
get it. You'll
I
get it.
will. And with that, can we adjourn for a few moments to close out the organizational meeting before we start the general meeting? Just give us about
Yeah.
5 minutes. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Meeting adjourned. It gives us a chance to log in. I don't know if anybody else has, but I hadn't because I didn't know.
I've logged in. I'd like to get it.
Janice, I don't know if it's a problem, but I've gotten 2 text messages that the streaming is not available. You want me to go tell him? Sure. I hope that doesn't make me a target with him that I seconded it. You didn't do anything. I would think. I didn't see anything real controversial, did you?
All right. Am I on? Okay. Is that Michael Carrick is talking? Shh. They are working on the air conditioning. There's a,
Synergistics is taking care of us. Thank you very much.
apparently there's a problem with the streaming also, and they are working on that too. So we're off to a good start. Okay, I'll call the November 22nd school board meeting to order. All right, thank you. Welcome. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which will be found located in the back of the room, indicating the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about, and turn it in promptly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the discussion agenda. Your participation is welcome and appreciated. All right. Before we start, I'd like to take just a moment of personal privilege. I just want to say thank you to my fellow board members for electing me as your chair. I think you all know that I consider it a great honor and a privilege, and it means a lot to me. And I'm really looking forward to our board working with our new superintendent in a great collaborative team effort. And I know we can all do it. I know it's in our hearts to really serve the children of and our staff of Clay County. And I want to take a moment and welcome and congratulate Mrs. Bola. We're so excited to have you and to have a teacher, an educator on our board. You're going to bring a wealth of knowledge to us, which we greatly appreciate. I want to congratulate Mrs. Studdard on her reelection. I'm so excited for you, and wow, it'll be 28 years and maybe more if I have my way. Carol Studdard, 2020.
Don't even go there.
Well, you've devoted your life to serving our children and the citizens in the community, and we all appreciate it. And finally, I want to congratulate and welcome Superintendent Addison Davis. I know you have a great vision for Clay County School District, and I think with your accomplishments and experience and your leadership skills and your qualifications, you're definitely going to move us in the right direction towards great things. And I see that in our future, and I know that we're all going to do it together. And to all our employees out there, I know it's been a tough couple of years, and I really appreciate all your hard work and everything you do for our children. I know you're the backbone of our community. Administrators, teachers, support, all of you. We all work together and make a difference. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you. And I look out in this room and I see so many happy, smiling faces. I don't think I've walked into a boardroom like this probably ever. I started coming to meetings in 2005 and nobody was here but me. And this is really, it's just great to see this. So it's really, truly a new day in Clay. And I just want to say I'm looking forward to it, and thank you to all of you again.
I think I feel air conditioning.
Yay! So with that, we'll move to the adoption of the consent agenda with the deletion of items C4, C5, and I had a card on C10, and I would prefer that we remove it down instead of having someone come up and speak and leave it in the consent. So we're going to remove C10 also. So I will entertain a motion for the adoption of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
In a second.
Now, on C10, are you just moving it down and you'll pick it up
Yes.
at the end? Okay.
Yes, it's
That's
been
the way we
moved
used to
down.
do it, and it works real well.
I have a motion by Mrs. Bola, a second by Mrs. Studdard. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. Next, we'll have recognitions and awards.
There it is.
So at this time, we'll ask Ms. Stewart, Sharice Stewart, to come up, and you have a presentation for us.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Logan, you want to come on down, bud? So I've got Becky Murphy with me. She is the proud principal of Mr. Logan Baxley, who is an 8th grader at Lake Asbury Junior High.
And which one?
And as Logan is coming up, we'll take just a couple of minutes to tell you about him and why we're up here today. So this young man is part of one of over 600,000 FFA members nationwide. However, currently he's in the top 1% of all those students because Mr. Baxley, behind me here, has done such a great job, and you've got some pictures up, so take a look at him. He won at the state FFA convention in June in an agri-science fair project about environmental science. You can see it says, trees may save your life, and then bottle versus xylem. He'll have to tell us what it was about if he wishes to, but his family has a long history of logging and tree farming in our community, and so he's doing some agri-science fair work on how to make that better. And so he won at the state convention down in June, back in June, which is a task on its own, and then went to national FFA convention in October and beat everybody in the entire nation. So this young man you're looking at received first place. So we thought we'd put him on the Clay County stage. He was on stage at National Convention, as you see with the pictures. There's this award that not many folks get. I'm talking top 1%. There's not many folks that get a national first place in FFA. So that's Logan and Mrs. Green, which is his ag teacher, who couldn't be here tonight. So, but I did want to say that his mom and dad are here, Mr. Eric and Cora Baxley. His brother is here. His grandparents are here. So if you guys will stand up, because it took a lot of y'all's support to get him up here as well. So we just wanted you to see yet another bright and shining star in the Clay County School District and in our CTE programs. And I want to see if Logan wanted to say a word or two, but it's up to him.
Well, first, I would like to thank the school board for having me here tonight and thanking me for this achievement. So I guess I'll talk about my project a little bit. I won't go too in depth. We basically took a xylem out of a yellow pine tree branch from Middleburg, and we went to Black Creek boat ramp, and we collected water from the creek, and we filtered it through the pine tree branch. And it ended up filtering out 99.9% of all the bacteria in the water. So this could potentially be a brand new water filtration system we could use in our growing environment, in our growing ecosystem. So.
Logan, what grade are you in?
8th grade.
Oh my God.
8th grade.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Can we get a picture with our new superintendent of Logan? Please.
Family, if you guys want to come on up, we'll get you part of the picture as well, I believe. I think that'd be great. So thank you to Logan, and thank you guys for continuing to support our programs, because those are the kind of things we do. Y'all have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. Mrs. Stutter, do you have anything
Roll
to add?
Tide.
Yes, we know she does.
You knew I was going to say it.
Hey, that first weekend of December, I guarantee you, Miss Studdard, I'll be wearing maroon and not orange and blue.
Hey,
So,
you just gained some brown.
roll tide.
Mr. Davis, she's an Aggie, so it's the way it goes. We have a running battle.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to wear orange and blue.
Oh, dear. I'll see you in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that trip.
Next up, we have a scheduled citizens request. Mr. Keith Nichols.
Move this down real quick. My name is Keith Nichols, and my address is on record. I know that the title probably has you a bit intrigued, but I'd first like to congratulate our two new elected officials. I look forward to working with both Mr. Davis and Ms. Bola in the future. Ms. Studdard, I know you were conflicted about seeking another term, but I can assure you that many in this community are relieved you did. For this, you have our deepest gratitude and admiration. As for the title, Episode 4, some science fiction fans know exactly where I'm going with this, but let me explain to those who aren't fans of the genre. It began in 1977 with the release of the film Star Wars. George Lucas wrote this epic saga as a triple trilogy, but released Episode 4 first. The first 3 films in the series were Star Wars, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Of course, they were blockbuster hits, and the additional 6 movies were all but guaranteed. Once their success was beyond question, George Lucas went back and gave Episode 4, the original movie, its subtitle. It went from being just plain Star Wars to being Star Wars, A New Hope. Think about that title in the recent school board elections. A New Hope, and there you sit. Before you smile in self-appreciation, though, consider this. The new hope doesn't rest in our newly elected officials. The new hope comes from the ordinary citizens that took civil participation to a new level during this election season. More people were actively engaged in the election process, and it all started right here at this podium. 16,654 more people voted in the superintendent's race this year than compared to 2012. Let that figure set in for a second. When I first started attending school board meetings, it was a very contentious time. There were a lot of people in the audience most nights, and they didn't come to participate. They attended just to see the fireworks that erupted at most meetings, and this podium was used primarily by surrogates of the opposing sides for chest thumping and browbeating. What a difference 4 years has made. The surrogates have relinquished their monopoly on the podium, and ordinary citizens with no axe to grind started expressing their opinions, fears, and frustrations. Whether you heard them or not is beside the point. What is important is they stood up, they had their say, and they did not fear you. They didn't lose sight of the fact that they could make a difference as long as they didn't lose hope. So for all the citizens that participated in this process, I want to say thank you. I don't feel so alone anymore up here. I also want to tell you that having been through this process before, the election isn't the end of the process, it's the beginning. We can't rest when there's still so much to do. We need to send a clear message to Tallahassee expressing our displeasure of the toxic testing schedule. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think if you want to know if a 3rd grade student should be promoted to the 4th grade, ask the 3rd grade teacher. They are our professionals, but our system has evolved to vilify and stigmatize them. We should be engaging them on every level. Instead, our elected leaders routinely ignore their advice and observations. We also have to hold our elected officials' feet to the fire when it comes to funding public education. We spend just short of $8,000 per year per student in Florida, but we spend just over $11,000 per year per inmate in the Florida prison systems. I understand the level of support needed to house an inmate is different than that required for the average student, but wouldn't it be great if that were reversed, though? Think what we could accomplish if we put more money in the services to support our students. Consider Jeffrey Canada's Harlem Children's Zone. Some programs it supports includes a series of workshops for parents of children from birth to 3 years of age, all-day pre-K, health clinics and community centers for children and adults during after-school, weekend, and summer hours, youth violence and foster care prevention programs, as well as college admissions and retention support. They even have an asthma initiative that has drastically reduced the emergency room visits and missed school days among its participants. One Harvard study found that Harlem Children's Zone students that entered the 6th grade in 2005 had, by the 8th grade, reversed the black-white achievement gap in mathematics and significantly reduced it in English. It's this type of all-in approach that we should be embracing, and it will take strong participation from a broad swath of our community to bring these issues to our state representatives. In the past, I have often told you how better than 30% of your support employees draw annualized salaries below federal poverty level. During his campaign, Mr. Davis said many times that he believes that district employees deserve a guaranteed step increase every year. I also recognize the realities in the district finances. I believe in his sincerity, and I feel confident that the hardworking people of the district won't be marginalized anymore. I would like to ask each of my fellow employees to consider the task Mr. Davis has before him. He has offered us respect and dignity. I have fought hard for better working conditions for all employees. Pay is just one aspect of that equation, and I'm now confident that we will no longer just be numbers on a spreadsheet. During the run-up to the election, I told Mr. Davis that we need citizens going to Tallahassee, not lobbyists. Lobbyists denote money being spent on an issue, while citizens represent a vote. Which one do you think most affects their job security? We are the ones best able to bring about change. We are the ones most passionate about our causes. I offered to Mr. Davis, that I would drive a bus to Tallahassee if he could fill it up. An ESE bus for 12 to 18 passengers, or a regular bus for more. I'd prefer a regular bus because more people means more action, and I also think everyone should experience the heat most of your students are subject to on a daily basis. Why does this matter so much? Simply because we can't afford to let campaign rhetoric determine our educational priorities. When I was growing up, rising into the middle class meant a high school education, maybe some technical training, then get a good job in a manufacturing plant and work for one company most of your life. A college education wasn't necessary. There are still good jobs today that don't require a degree, but there are fewer of them. We have heard the campaign promise of bringing jobs back to America, make America great again, and we are encouraged to buy American. Some people even show open contempt for people that aren't driving a vehicle from one of America's big three manufacturers. So consider this. In order to carry the Made in America label, a product must have at least 75% of its components made in America, and it must be assembled in America. I'm sure most of you remember the Super Bowl commercial of the Toyota Tundra towing the space shuttle through the streets of Los Angeles. Well, the Toyota Tundra is American made, while the Ford F-150 is a product of Mexico, and God only knows where the Chevy Silverado hails from. This is the reality of the world our children must compete in. The world our children are inheriting is unlike anything we ever imagined. Campaign promises may sound great and may get you elected, but the reality is that the global marketplace can't be avoided, and we cannot afford to fail our children now. I gave you one example with the trucks. Would it surprise you to learn that 7 of the 10 best-selling American cars are manufactured by foreign companies? In 1960, one American farmer could feed 25 people. Today, that number stands at 129. America has led the world in innovations, but we are in danger of losing this competitive edge unless we rethink our educational system. Tonight, we were witnessed as a new leader took the stage, but every member of the community must be willing to take up this fight. Quoting a line from my favorite Pink Floyd song, Wish You Were Here, and it goes, "Did you exchange your walk-on part in the war for a lead role in the cage?" We can't sit in idle complacency and let others dictate our needs. So please stand with me and fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Mr. Nichols, I do want to say this, and I'm sorry. I know that this conversation is probably out of line, but I want to tell you I appreciate you for the last 15 months taking the courage to come address and push the district to think differently about how we treat people and how we problem solve together. As your superintendent, I am committed to looking at our testing schedule internally. I'm also committed to looking at funding in every avenue that we can, and I'm also committed to filling not one bus but many buses to go, but it'll be 360 accountability with everybody in this room to rally behind the greater needs for this school district in order to fight the good fight. So thank you for what you do, and we appreciate your courage.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Ms. Sandra Phipps, the GPS tracking system.
My name is Sandra Driggers Phipps. I live at 772 Decoy Road, Green Cove Springs, Florida. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you tonight. I'm an exceptional student bus driver for the Clay County School District. I originally had intended to speak to you about distraction issues with the tracking system recently installed on the county's bus fleet. I submitted a prepared presentation, which I hope you have had a chance to read before tonight. In that synopsis, I addressed issues of secondary tasks being a safety hazard when driving and some statistics revealed by studies conducted by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration of the U.S. Department of Transportation. Since presenting my original copy, I have come to realize that there is no way I'm going to be able to complete the presentation in the time allotted, so I beg your indulgence in a little change in the presentation. When this tracking system was introduced by both Mr. Warrenberg and Mr. Merrill, they stated that the students would board the bus, swipe an ID card, and be entered into the system. The equipment to do this was to be installed near the door of the bus on the dash, and the students would be required to swipe on the bus at their stop and then off again at the school in the morning, and then on at the school and off at their stop in the afternoon. The students would be required to do this, not the driver. In a perfect world, this would be not a problem. In reality, there are a multitude of issues. First is the issue of a student not having their ID when they want to board the bus. The solution to this is that the driver would manually input the student on the bus. This is a major distraction to the safe operation of a school bus and a safe loading and unloading of students. As included in my original presentation, the NHTSA study revealed that a secondary task, such as entering data on a navigation system, which closely emulates entering this student data, even when accomplished while the vehicle is stopped, adds a 10% increase in operator error, and that this percentage increases exponentially with each repetition of the secondary task. Many of our bus routes have over 10 stops, and some have over 15. In a discussion with Mr. Warrenberg, I addressed the issue of ID cards for ESC students. As you know, exceptional students have a variety of needs not associated with regular education students, and that is why we have aides or monitors on ESC buses. ESCs may have physical, emotional, psychological, or behavioral issues. ESC drivers, along with the regular training to drive a school bus, are trained to handle the issues associated with transportation of these students. Many of these students are not physically or mentally capable of keeping up with an ID card, let alone swiping themselves on or off of a school bus. In September, after a meeting with Mr. Warrenberg on another matter, I spoke with him about this issue. In the course of that discussion, I suggested to Mr. Warrenberg that ESC drivers be issued generic ID cards for the students assigned to their route, so that they could swipe the student on the bus. Mr. Warrenberg's response at that time was that transportation had not decided how to handle the ESC students. On October 31st, employees received an email instructing them how to input student ridership manually into the system. This is a mock-up of the little tablet that we have on the school buses, and this is what we use to input that information. In the original presentation, I outlined how the screens would look and that type. In October 31st, the employees received the email on how to put the students into the system. ESC drivers were instructed to begin inputting their students into the system manually. This should be email number 5 in the original packet. In this email, there are 4 steps to input a student. In a perfect world, that's true. However, if you go out of the stop page for any reason, it may take as many as 6 or 7 steps to get back to the stop page. Also, the screen only shows 2 students at any given time. If you have to scroll to the next student, the screen starts at the top of the list, and you have to scroll to the student you need. In addition, after you send the student, the screen goes back to the stop list. If the next stop does not automatically come to the screen, you have to scroll through the list to find the stop. Again, the screen only shows 2 stops at any time, and the list starts with the first stop. Although there are usually not many steps in accomplishing the input of a student, and swiping a student is even faster, it must be remembered that this is to be done while you are loading or unloading the student at their bus stop. ESC stops are usually placed as close as possible to the student's home, and regular ed stops are placed in a central area. Many times, these stops are on high-traffic roads. Think about the major roadways in this county. We have Blanding Boulevard, Highway 17, Argyle Forest Boulevard, County Roads 16, 218, and 220, and the Brandonfield Road Complex. All major roadways with thousands of vehicles on a daily basis, not including the secondary roads, which is where the majority of our stops are located. In an ideal world, traffic is very respectful of school buses. In reality, buses are passed on a daily basis while loading and unloading students, and any additional time added to a stop becomes a hazard to student safety. On the second page of the original presentation is a picture of the cabin of a C2 Thomas school bus, which is used to transport regular education students. On an ESE bus, the tablet and card reader are located lower in position on the dash than in the regular ed bus, approximately 8 to 9 inches. The card reader is even somewhat under the dash. I have asked students on my routes that have their school IDs, which some of them do work in the system, to swipe them when they enter the bus. These students have found this to be problematic because of the placement of the reader. Even more problematic is swiping when exiting the bus. The student has to literally get down on the floor to accomplish this, usually while holding books or wearing a heavy backpack. Note the location of the tablet. On my bus, if I reach toward the tablet, it is approximately 6 inches beyond my reach. For me personally, I have to grasp the steering wheel and lean over to reach the tablet. Since being instructed to manually input my students on my route, there is an average of 8 minutes increase in each of my routes, and I do 3 routes in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Let me demonstrate the process. As a driver, I try to continually scan the area as I approach a stop. I watch traffic, the roadway, ahead and behind my bus, and also my cross streets that may be in the area. I scan all 7 mirrors. I watch the students at the stop. I watch the placement of my bus on the roadway and observe any obstacles that may be on the side of the road, such as mailboxes, signposts, or garbage cans, so that students can board my bus safely. Once I reach the stop, I check that all other traffic has stopped before I signal the students to come to the bus, and I open the door. As the students begin to board, I continue to scan the area for traffic and students that may be running late to the bus. I try to greet each student as they board. Once the students have all boarded the bus and are safely seated, I check traffic, check the area again, check my mirrors, and then proceed to input the stop on the tablet. Once I have input the students, I again check traffic and scan the area before proceeding to the next stop. I would like you to understand that it is not the concept of the system that is the problem. It is the system itself and it being rolled out in such a way that it hinders employees from doing their job the way they were trained to do it. If you speak with the driver and they refer to the students on their routes, you will always hear them refer to them as my kids. Drivers and monitors are very protective of their students under their care and will try to shield them from anything they perceive as a threat to their safety. I have heard drivers say that because of the emphasis being put on implementing this system, they feel that the safety of the students is being compromised. When their concerns are brought to the administration, they are told it's just a new system, and as soon as the issues are all addressed, everything will be better. It's been 2 months, and many drivers are still having problems just logging into the system because of technical issues. Once again, I would like to say that I totally support the concept of the system. However, I believe that the child tracker component may not be appropriate in rural districts like Clay County, where the majority of stops are on high-traffic roadways and major highways. Not only because of the added time to stops and then routes, but mostly because of the distracting influence of using a tablet while trying to transport the most important cargo in the county. I would like to leave you with this. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration states that a distraction is anything that diverts the driver's attention from the primary task of navigating the vehicle and responding to critical events. To put it another way, a distraction is anything that takes your eyes off the road. This is a visual distraction. Your mind off the road. This is a cognitive distraction. Or your hands off the wheel, which is a manual distraction. So when you think about tasks that you can do while driving, you can see that they often fit into more than one category. Eating is a visual and manual distraction, whereas using a navigation system is all three. There are two basic components in the distraction safety problem. Give me like 10 more seconds. The attentional demands of the distracting task and the frequency with which the driver multitasks. Task demands relate to the amount of resources, visual, cognitive, and manual, required to perform the task. The other issue is exposure, which is how often operators engage in the task. Putting these two concepts together, even an easy task, can be a bigger safety problem if the person does the task 50% of their operating time. The study conducted trials in radio tuning, phone dialing, using a contact list, phone dialing using number entry, and destination entry into a navigation system with a touch screen, which is what we have on the buses. And text messages combining receiving messages and making one-word reply. It is my contention that the ESE child tracking system now in place, especially on the ESE buses, constitutes an unacceptable distraction as defined by the NHTSA. It is yet to be seen if the swiping system will be any different. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Phipps. That was quite a presentation. And I want to say thank you for sending all that information to the board in advance. We were all able to go through it, and there was a lot of information that we weren't aware of, so thank you very much. We appreciate it. At this time, it'll be the last call for cards. If anybody would like to address the board at the end of the meeting, please bring them up now. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the discussion of the school board attorney, which was placed on there by me. So I guess I'll start. I put this on the agenda tonight for us to determine our next step moving forward. As I'm sure you're aware, we're in a tight spot with Mr. Sykes having submitted his resignation effective this month, meaning we're without legal representation beginning December 1. Obviously, we need to have representation as a district and as a board. And with that being said, I'd like for us to agree on a plan of action tonight and give instruction to the superintendent. So there's 2 points that we need to address. For the immediate future, I would like the board to reach consensus tonight to extend Mr. Sykes' contract 2 months. Mr. Sykes has served the board for the last 2 years. He has previously indicated that he'd be available. I did speak with him, and he said that if the board chose to do that, that he would be fine with that, and he would help assist us with future. The second thing is I'd like us to, again, reach consensus and instruct the superintendent to advertise and accept applications. I know we did it 10 months ago. At the time, we really didn't. We had 12 applications come back, and nobody had, one person had experience. So I'd like to instruct the superintendent to advertise and interested parties for them to bring it back to the board so we can have a workshop. I would propose, my suggestion is that we advertise and accept applications through January 3rd with a workshop to be scheduled sometime in the middle of January to discuss the applications and schedule interviews maybe at the general board meeting in January. Now, we'll all have to talk about the January board meeting because we've moved that, but that's what I'd like to see this board do, is go ahead and advertise again and move forward in that way.
Ma'am, may I be heard for a second, ma'am? I'm on a month-to-month contract, and so if it's the consensus of the board that you want me to stay on until you have a successor council, I'm happy to do that. I'll withdraw the resignation tomorrow. That puts me on a month-to-month. And as I told you when I first came on board, I don't want to stay anywhere that I'm not wanted. Once you find your successor, I'll be happy to step down and whatever I can do to help them transition. I will also tell you that right now we have all the plates spinning. Everything's being covered, and I'll be happy to cover it until you find a successor. Whatever plan you want, I'm fine with it.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes. I really appreciate your willingness, and that's we appreciate it very much. Thank you. So let's discuss it, see what everybody thinks. Are we in favor of, do we have consensus? Do you have better ideas? We have to take some kind of direction to the superintendent.
My only concern is if we close the application window January 3rd, I'd like to give it maybe through February to get through the holidays and have time for everybody to get as many applications as we can
Okay. I'm fine with that. I wanted your opinion.
Let me ask you this. When we went out for an RFP before, there was a salary in there. I'm not, but I think it was, wasn't it
Wasn't it a part-time position
a
at the
part-time or
time?
something? I don't know.
That might be why.
I
we
don't
found
know
so
the
few.
way we should word it, but I would like
we
to.
could
I'd like to have a full-time attorney.
We could ask Ms. Legutko, Dr. Legutko, as far as what we could possibly afford salary-wise. I think it would be good to consult her on that.
Because
I would like us to look at a full-time attorney also,
Yeah.
if everybody's in favor of that. I know we've had
But I don't know if we have to
employees-
put do we have to put a salary range on the advertisement? What is it normally done?
Yeah, I do believe that, through the chair, I do believe that we would have to put a salary range, so that's just being transparent, and it tells us a bottom, a mid, and potentially a high. And Mr. Brodsky, anything from your side of what we'll need to do to initiate this process?
Nope, I'll go ahead and form an advertisement. I'll send an email out to all board members with the advertisement. You guys tell me if that's what you want advertised. Last time that we did this, we put advertisements in the Florida Association of School Administrators, Florida School Board Attorneys Association, and the Florida Bar. And we did have about 20 people that applied, so there's things to consider. We took all applicants. Some represent a firm, some are individual attorneys, some are from out of town great distances, which makes you wonder the ability of that individual to actually take that position. So there's a whole mess of things that go into it. If you remember last time, I kind of formed a chart and tried to analyze a little bit for you, and really there was about 5 people that had qualifications for the part-time position.
What kind of
So it's
range?
my understanding this would be a full-time position.
What kind of range should we put on this? I don't even, what did we pay before?
Our full-time attorney was $154,000, so we probably should put a range of at least 125 through.
125 to 150, somewhere like that?
Somewhere in that,
Or is
Mr.
that
Davis.
enough?
Yeah, to be very transparent and through the chair, I would say that for you to really recruit talent, it's all about talent management. And for us to get for lack of a better word, a first-round draft pick, we're going to really need to be competitive. And I would say a salary between $120,000 to $150,000 will allow you to get someone who is of high quality and has the ability and skill set to help us problem solve every single day through the school board and through the system as well.
That suits me.
That's fine.
That's a good range.
Ms. Condon?
Can we afford it?
Yeah, that would be a good question.
And so I would say, through the chair, I would say I can provide you with, Ms. Condon, I can provide you with an analysis of what we spent over the last 3 years and show you all of the funding that we spent currently and in order to show you our affordability. We can provide that to the board.
So we have consensus to direct the superintendent to please have an advertisement posted in the locations that Mr. Brodsky said is what we did last time, and that would be fine unless you know of anything else also that you think would be good, and then let's get the process going.
Yes, ma'am. I'll work
All right.
with Human Resources, and I will send a job description and also a range of historical funding that we have spent in order to make an informed decision through the board.
I appreciate
Quick,
that. Very
quick
good.
question. Are we advertising for an in-house attorney, or are we going to be specific about that?
I would like to have an in-house attorney, and the reason why is somebody who can go and, at a drop of a hat, handle a family issue at a school or an ESE issue or deposition for a staff member or, the many things that the superintendent has. I remember getting a list of the duties way back, and it was like 4 or 5 pages of things that the previous attorney handled. It was stuff I didn't even know we had to deal with. There's things out there, homeless children who are in our school. I can't remember the name for that, but there's so many issues. So I think it's important to have a full-time in-house attorney, but again,
That seems to be the consensus.
That's
I think,
the-
and the
I
full-time
agree.
in-house
Right.
attorney, pardon me, would obviously help any principals
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that need that last-minute decision, that are immediate decision.
Yes.
Yep.
I think-
Remember, go ahead.
One of the things that I think it would benefit this district to have an in-house, a full-time. Is so many times, and you know from being out in a school, and there's several principals here, something will come up at a school, non-custodial parents trying to pick up a child, or
exactly right.
anything that can happen. Have a level of comfort knowing that they can pick up the phone and the attorney's going to be there. We're not calling, hoping someone's in the office and not out at court. I think it would be a better protection for our district myself.
Was there a decision made, and forgive me for not knowing this, but when we went with a part-time attorney, was there a reason for that versus, was it a cost?
It was cost.
Cost at that point? Okay.
We were cutting a lot at the district level at that point.
Right.
I don't know if we actually had a lot of cost savings, though. Mr. Sykes has done a fine job, but I know that there are things that, would have normally been handled in-house under salary. So but we can look at, we'll see what we get back in applications, and we could have a workshop on it where we can really talk and go through it all, if that's what everyone would like.
Ms. Bola, what we did several years ago when let's see, it was after Mr. Scrooby, and we were interviewing for an attorney. What we did is when we got it down to each board member kind of evaluated and picked our top picks, and then the top, I forget if it was 3 or 4, we actually had a meeting and together we all interviewed each candidate and had a chance to really ask them questions and talk to them. So, it's a good process so that we can all, get some buy-in, and usually, something will rise to the top there.
And through the chair, through Ms. Gilhausen, I would say that now that we've moved our board meetings to the beginning of the month in February, is this something that we can look to push at somewhat of the middle of January so that we can do interviews at the end of January so that we can may potentially identify a candidate for moving into February?
For February. Sure, if that's what the board wants to do.
So if it's okay, I can send a potential timeline along with the job description and the salary analysis as well for everyone to review.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And through the chair, I also want to thank Mr. Sykes for agreeing to help us out until we can get someone permanently. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Did anybody have anything else before we move on? I'm sorry, Mr. Sykes, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I just want briefly. I just want you to know on a daily basis I have principals call me every day. I answer the questions every day. So there hasn't been a time where principals haven't been able to have those questions answered. I just wanted you to know that.
Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sykes. We appreciate that. And we didn't mean anything disrespectful in the conversation. Apologize. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the Florida Safe Schools Assessment Certification for the 2016-17 school year. And that was me again. I pulled that. I'm sorry. This, it was brought to my attention that the health section of this, the health education, that it might need to be reevaluated, and I have discussed this with Superintendent Davis, that I would like him to review it and go through it. Some of the, I think, Mrs. Bola, you won't remember, but the rest of the board was on the board in March when we eliminated 3 health education positions, and those were the people who were teaching the junior high students about drugs, alcohol, safe sex, abstinence, because that's what the statute says, and it very clearly states that the people who teach this have to be trained instructors, and we currently don't have anybody in our district that is doing that. So I pulled it because I had several questions about this, and I really wanted the superintendent to have the time to go through it and bring it back to us in the complete and corrected format. So if everybody's okay with not approving this tonight.
I'm okay with it. I would challenge that we don't have anyone certified to do this because it's part of the state certification for science teachers.
Yeah, the science teachers are not trained in the health part of this education? I asked that question, and they're not. So,
Yeah, so through the chair, and I would say that the issue is this report is on an annual basis, but the report that we are submitting right now is for the 15-16 school year. So I would say from this side, we are in compliance because in 15-16 we had health education specialists, which covered the human sexuality and drug prevention educational standards. The issue is once we do an assessment for next year, currently now, if we were doing it to date, we would be out of compliance because we do not have the health educational standards being taught through science. We are working through now we are working with curriculum instruction and also with others other specialists to infuse a virtual learning platform that will take place in the fourth quarter, and that we will teach it through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But I do believe I have no problems going back and looking at the entire assessment. I'm very familiar with this assessment. This is part of one of the roles and responsibilities in my former career. I do believe there is an inaccurate assessment for how we demonstrate surveys to our students in relation to bullying, discipline, and threats perceived by students. We have potentially in this item, we have marked that we are meeting and we have met the standard, but in reality we are truly in compliance, in progress, in the sense that we have a number of questions that are related to school safety and order, but they're not really explicit to bullying, discipline, and threats. And I think that we can work toward that for 16-17, and we can work with staff, and I think we'll be able to meet going on to next year's self-assessment progress. And this self-assessment is really an annual data reflection for us to really look how we interact with healthy schools. And but I'm committed to going back and looking at that assessment so we are very transparent where we are.
Yeah, because when we eliminated those 3 positions, it was when we had Dr. Hamilton come in and do the financial analysis, and he used the words, there can be no sacred cows and no positions. And while we love having those people, we had to take some hard looks at things. And we were told that those standards were being taught through the science teachers, because I specifically asked about Clay Virtual, and they said it was part of the curriculum because those health education specialists did not teach the Clay Virtual students. So when you go back and bring that back to us, I would just ask that we get more information on that, because certainly that's news. Obviously, Ms. Carrick has had a conversation with you, but we weren't privy to that information before tonight. So if you could bring us more information on where we missed, because certainly none of us, well, I can only speak for myself, and I certainly would never vote to have our students not meet a state standard that they need.
I also was of the understanding that we contract out with Project SOS to do some of this teaching, because I got an email invitation to come observe out in Oakleaf what they're doing out there for health education. So it may not, it may be partially science teachers, but it may also be a contract that we have.
Well, I think this is all the more reason that
Yeah.
maybe you should evaluate it, and if you could just bring it back to us when you feel that it's at the proper, it's complete and you're comfortable with
Well,
it.
but from what I'm understanding, you're saying the 15-16 plan we were covered, so would we not just go ahead and approve tonight this one?
So we can't approve it fully because we have got to go back and refine one of the categories and to make certain that we are very transparent that we're in progress as it relates to the climate surveys to our students from the bullying, discipline, and threats component. We are in compliance from last year with the educational specialists, and I was just being transparent about what we're doing for 16-17, that staff is working rigorously right now to make sure that we offer that platform in the fourth quarter.
So that's the part that you want to amend, is the
Correct. Just one of the self-assessment, so that we're very transparent moving forward. And in that body, I truly enjoy looking at the assessment overall to make sure that we're accurate.
Okay. So will we see it next meeting then?
Yes, ma'am, you will. And any adjustments that we have to make and amend to the state, I believe we can do so once we finalize our assessment. Ms. Cornegie, is that accurate? Okay.
And we're not going to miss any deadlines for this, correct?
I believe that we have already submitted, and I think the deadline was December 1, but 30 days to gotcha.
You're not on.
All right.
Your mic.
You're not on your mic.
It has been submitted per the timeline to the state. We'll have to notify the state because the board has 30 days to approve the document from the time of submission, so we'll miss the 30-day window. I'm sure that the state will grant approval, seeing that we have some new board members and a new superintendent. We'll request that when we return from the holidays.
Okay.
All right, so thank you. So, Ms. Bush, with this item, do we need to just strike it? Or, I know if we table it, then it absolutely has to come back at the next meeting. So
Well, I think we need to vote on it first, don't we?
No.
No, we're not voting on it because,
Well, we never had a motion anyway.
right, right. I brought this up for that reason. So, Mrs. Studdard, what's the correct thing to do at this point?
Technically, we should have discussed it. I know I'm not
We
Mrs.
should have
Studdard,
done
but
the
technically we should
motion
have had a
and the second
motion
and
prior
then
to
discussing.
discussion.
Right, and then voted it down, I guess.
Um,
Right.
If he's going to bring this back up, just postpone it until next month.
Postpone it. All right, so that will be postponed. So I guess we need a motion to postpone it?
I move that this item, let's see, C5, no, C4,
C4.
Be placed on the December school board agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Studdard, a second by Ms. Gilhousen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right. The next item we have is the personnel consent agenda, which was pulled by Superintendent Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Through the chair, I pull this item to once again be very transparent with the board. In this item, I know was placed on consent. We have 4 positions that have not been approved from an allocation standpoint by the board. These 4 positions go back between 16 to 18 months in various departments. And I wanted to make certain that everyone on this board truly understood that these positions do have individuals in them. They are currently being paid salary, but the board never approved these allocations. I want to make certain that I am clear moving forward that we will not have opportunities this way. We will not. We will always be transparent, and we will be clean in our process. So I do believe that this is somewhat. We do own this from an internal standpoint. This is bad practice, and we will continue to conduct audits internally to make certain that we are accurate in our reporting to the board as it relates to allocations. And I want to make sure that you know that I personally have talked to staff and about expectations. And moving forward, we will have a cleaner, better process. I will give Human Resources credit for really finding these errors, but I do believe, and I said it before, we can do better, and we will do better.
Do I have a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mrs. Condon, a second by Mrs. Bola. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I do have a question about that. Mr. Davis, you may not know that we recently changed over to a new enterprise resource management system and from terms, and I know that we're not fully implemented. And I was wondering if this is a situation where the electronic system will help prevent this or not.
Yeah, so day one, so I'm not really familiar with terms. I know that we are transitioning to a new platform. I know that I've asked for a couple of items from a data analysis perspective, and they are so waiting for the summer to come so they can really have that data at their fingertips. But I'm not quite. I mean, to be transparent, we own this. We own this from.
Yeah, I know.
Personnel.
I just wondered if it was an oversight because we're in the paper management system through terms, or if it was.
I can't tell you because this is when this is beyond 16 to 18 months. I can't tell when the transition has started or begun. So.
Yeah, this was way back there.
Yeah.
So is there any further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Oh, we voted.
We already did that. Okay,
You
motion
didn't say all-
passed.
You didn't say all opposed.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Good girl.
All right, Human Resources, Special Actions, we have none. Next is open the public hearing to approve the adoption of the French material. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wanted to address this item? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion to approve the, what am I doing? The public hearing. So
I move approval to adopt this item.
adopt the French material.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Studders.
Hang on. You haven't even voted on, some of the people have not registered on the last ones. We got to get that vote squared away before we go to the next, so we need everybody to check their voting. Okay, it's showing now. Are we ready to go forward? We need to clarify, she didn't get the motion for the record, so we went a little too fast for
The
her.
motion was to approve
This item.
the adoption of the French material. The motion was by Mrs. Studdard, a second by Mrs. Condon.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion?
Instead of saying I, can we say mais oui or something in
You say
French?
whatever you'd like.
I would, okay, thank you.
Come on.
Was there any discussion? All right. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying oui, oui.
Oui, oui.
You have got to be kidding.
All those opposed? Wait,
may we,
did everybody, I didn't hear, all I heard was Mary's oui, oui.
No, I.
All those say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
I can only try to teach you, Carol. I can only try.
My French teacher told me the sad thing is you don't even realize you're slaughtering a beautiful language with your southern accent.
We're just waiting a moment for it to come up on our screen. Come up on anybody?
Here we go.
Okay, here we go. Voting now. All right. The next item is item C10, approval of the school improvement plan for the 2016-2017 school year. I pulled it because we have someone who would like to address it, Ms. Melissa Kaplan.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. My hope is that you only not hear me, but that you listen and take some actions. How can we improve our schools when we spend so much time testing? So my story starts like this. Last week in my mailbox was a piece of paper that made me extremely sad. It was for a student telling her that she, once again, needed to take her Algebra 1 EOC. I start to formulate a plan on how I will hand her this note. You see, she arrives in my class around 7 a.m. each morning in order to work on her classwork, to work on the computers, or just to sit and talk about her life. I reread her paper, and I know that this is going to bring a look of sadness to her eyes when I give it to her. I've seen that look in her eyes before in the recent weeks. It's a look of someone that is staring at defeat and wondering how and when she's going to conquer it because her previous plans have not been successful. I have seen the look of defeat in her eyes combined with the glimmer of, I will do this, with each EOC or PERT test that she has taken and missed passing by only a few points. My fear is that her glimmer of, I will do this, is growing dimmer. But then I remember who this young lady is, and my warrior spirit rises up for her. Let me tell you a little about this student. She is a sophomore. She took her Algebra 1 last year and missed the EOC passing score by a few points. A math teacher told me she probably missed 1, maybe 2 questions. That's it. 1 or 2 questions separate her from being able to graduate. To me, this is ludicrous. This young lady just completed her karate testing requirements and is now a 2nd-degree black belt. This student is dedicated and knows what it is to work hard. She knows how to set goals and to achieve them. When I say she has her life together, I really mean she has her life together. As I sit and think of this young lady, my warrior spirit is getting agitated. My plans are circling in my head. Approach is everything. Knowing this student, my best plan was to tell her before school started so we could discuss it and formulate a plan going forward. I couldn't find my magic wand, so I broke out the Sour Patch Kids and the chocolate, because that fixes a lot in the world of teenagers at 7 a.m., and it didn't hurt my spirit that much either. This is where I need your help as the superintendent and school board members. This school year, she has already missed my class 6 times in order to go and sit for the Algebra 1 retake or the PERT test for a concordant score. She has yet to improve her score enough to pass her EOC. With the letter that I'm about to hand her that morning, this will make 8 days she will have missed my class alone. As these tests go on for multiple class periods, she's missing at least 1, if not 2, other classes. That's 8 days of testing, and it's only the end of November. Let me do the math for you. It's not my best subject. And it's not hers either. Please indulge me a few more seconds.
Yes, continue.
8 class periods is 50 minutes. We will say 45 since we have announcements, bell work, and such each class period. So 45 minutes of instruction and classwork times 8 days is 360 minutes, equivalent to 6 hours of testing. Now that's just my class. If she's also missing a second class, she's now up to 12 hours of testing. If she's missing 3, it's 18 hours. Holy guacamole, that's my favorite expression. That's insane for 1 EOC. For missing 1 or 2 questions, it's ridiculous. And here's the real issue. This isn't the only student that this is happening to. With so many state-mandated tests, there are many more students affected than just my 1 student example. I have told you what my student is. Now let me tell you what she's not. She's not a test score.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan. I'd like to do something a little different. I know how important it is for us to have a good working relationship with our employees, so I'd like to ask Ms. Renali Paiva and Ms. Dixon have both filled out cards, but I'd like us to turn the 3 minutes off and just give us an update on the status of our teachers and our support people. So, Ms. Paiva, would you come to the mic and talk to us? Do we need to vote on that? Do we have consensus from the board to allow our...
Do we need a motion? Because I'll be happy to make that motion.
I think we just need consensus. We don't need a motion, but if everybody's in agreement to do that, then...
I think it's incredibly important that we get an update from the people who work directly with our employees on a monthly basis.
I think we're all in agreement.
Okay.
And I think we're all in agreement.
Mr. Davis, are you okay with that?
No, that's one of the items that I wanted to speak with the board as well, to make sure that we have opportunity to hear from our partnerships and our unions as well, to tell us what's working, what's not, and what we can do differently, or any kind of update. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. You would not believe the notes he's taken over here, so he probably needs another pad. All right, Ms. Paiva, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. This is a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but that's good with me. Congratulations, first of all, Mr. Davis, Mrs. Studdard, and Mrs. Bola. And it's my wish that we'll move together to bring the very best education possible to the children of Clay County. I am confident that this board, working with this superintendent and working with the support staff and working with the teachers, will be able to give our students, we're a small county, we're not a huge urban, welcome to the rural world. We're a family. We've spoken about this many, many times. I'm inspired. I believe that with the teachers and the administrators that we have in this county, there's absolutely no excuse for us not being a top 10 school district. Even the corrupt way that they measure excellence, and we all know that. One of the main things I was going to speak about, there was 2 things that I wanted to update you on. One is testing's killing us. We're drowning. You've heard me say that since I've been president of the CCEA. I've stood up here and said that. You just heard Ms. Kaplan talk eloquently about it. That's how students are. That's what they say to us every day. I had a 6th grade, I don't think it's 6th grade, I had a special education teacher call me one day. It took her for just Performance Matters. It took her 12 hours to test her children. That's ours. That's not with the state, that's ours. We have to get a handle on this. We're drowning in it. And I will eternally respect Mrs. Condon and Ms. Studdard and Ms. Karagas for going with us last year to Tallahassee and trying to make our voice heard. to the legislators. I think you underestimate yourselves. You have the power. We're all about, in the state of Florida, local control. There is about a time now that the school board has to, we've said it. This is what the teachers, number one, if I say what to the teachers, what is the issue? It's testing. I walked in a classroom the other day to speak to in Keystone. I think I told Mr. Davis this, and I talked to my rep, and I looked around and goes, oh, what a nice small class. This was September. Not a small class. He looks at me and says, Renly, they're all testing. Again. They're retesting, retakes. It was September. We hadn't even been in school 4 weeks, and they were already testing from last year, missing the EOC and testing. I know there's guidance counselors in here, and they'll tell you they're sick of this. They're done. You know, we're just testing our kids to date. We want to teach. Give us the opportunity to teach, and that's paramount. So that was it. It's a new day in Clay. What's past is past. We have the opportunity to do something very, very priceless here, and that's the opportunity for the union, the superintendent, and the school board to be on the same page. I will absolutely work my heart out. I know our teachers will work their hearts out to make us the very best we can be for the children of Clay and not have any other distraction. And that's where we're at. And I will remind this board that on another note, the teachers are without a contract. It is extremely imperative that we get this done. The teachers deserve their contract, and we can finally put this behind us and do something great again, and we can do that together. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Ms. Lee, can...
Ms. Paiva.
Ms. Paiva, sorry, Ms. Renly Paiva. I agree. Testing creates angst everywhere, and Ms. Kaplan is spot on. I believe that we do often test too much. That's why I'm committed to, as well, looking at the testing calendar and really minimizing our testing from an internal standpoint. Now, we are obligated to have certain tests as mandated by the state. I do agree that we can create some noise if we collectively go to Tallahassee and present our case. But will definitely work with senior staff, with teachers, to have a committee to look at our internal testing calendar, to eliminate testing, and also at the same time, try to find out proactive ways how we can use data to inform the instructional process with the limited testing that I want to implement within the school district. On the side of the teacher's contract, I know that we've had multiple conversations. I want a chance to work with Dr. Legecko to determine what we have and where we are financially. I will continue to work with Human Resources from a collective bargaining agreement as well for negotiations. But I also want to work with the board, and they haven't had a chance to meet with me and talk about my vision. And I've said it before, and I say it today. I would love to figure out and find proactive measures financially to commit to a 3-year contract so we don't have to talk about it anymore. The only thing we'll have to talk about is language. I'm not saying we can do that, but that is my vision moving forward, because I think it gives a system of care to our teachers and shows them that we value them. But that means that it puts it on me and staff to be as creative as we can financially in order to provide that opportunity for teachers and support staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa Dixon, would you like to come up and address us?
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't know if I need to introduce myself. Teresa Dixon, my address is on file, and I am the CESPA president. I just want to jump on this same bandwagon with the testing. It may not be a support issue. However, as a support employee, my job is a testing and support administrative assistant. That's my job. So that's what I do all day, is testing. And believe me, whenever Rena was talking about the students being out of the class in September, you can't imagine my shock when I come back to work in August, knowing that I've got to come up with a testing list of all these retakes in September. The EOC retakes in September, the PERT test in September for those students who didn't pass the EOC, the ELA, FSA ELA retakes in October, and I'm currently just completed PERT testing again, trying to eliminate students from having to take that EOC, and have already implemented my testing list for another round of retakes for the last week of December, last week of November, first week of December. So that's going to bring us right into the new year, where it's going to all start again in March, February-March timeframe. We're doing the reading test, the writing test, the PERT test. Now we're doing the PERT test for all 11th and 12th graders in addition, even if they're taking an EOC in math or the English test. It's crazy. You add to that the performance matters testing. That is a local decision. I feel for every teacher out here. Every time I send out a testing list and I put those notes in those boxes that Ms. Kaplan was talking about, I feel for them, because I know all they want to do is teach those students. And then you look at the whole aspect of it, that it's those students who are struggling to take this test that need to be in class. They need that instruction, and all we're doing is taking more away from them and just making it harder. So I just had to jump onto that bandwagon for a moment with Rena Lee, Ms. Kaplan, Mr. Nichols. I think everybody feels the same way. And as the union representative for support, and I know many of my support would feel the same way, we will stand with you all together. And we can do this. We can make some noise.
All right.
But anyway, regarding support now. Regarding support, I feel like I'm giving a State of the Union address or something. I don't know. It's really no. Things have been tough for support. Things have really been tough for support. And the biggest issue facing support has been a lack of respect. You know, I mean, just quite frankly, just the feeling that we're the redheaded stepchild, that our work and our sweat is not appreciated, that it's expected, that we're looked down upon so often. And that's what I hear from my people. That's really what I hear from my people. They are hopeful that change is in the horizon. They are hopeful, and they're feeling that hope. And I am hopeful and praying that it will continue. But the main reason I did put a card in to speak tonight, I did want to address and bring up the AC issue again. I'm sorry for missing the last meeting. I was out of town, but I did want to address it. I was watching the meeting and I heard my name mentioned regarding the still unresolved AC, or really this time of the year you can't call it the AC issue, it's the HAVAC issue, because it's AC in the summer, but it's going to be heat here real soon. I did reach out to Mr. Merrill, and yet we've been unable to collaboratively come to any kind of resolution. And, you know, we've corresponded back and forth, as I'm sure you're aware, because you were all copied on the emails. Mr. Merrill did provide a selection of 6 schools, including time frames of the AC adjustments. And yet still, he is insistent that the AC issue adjustment is not an issue. And he feels that I had not provided sufficient facts to back my claims. My feeling is that all the information needed is well within Mr. Merrill's grasp if he truly investigated the entire issue, and then we could probably reach a resolution. While I do appreciate the attempt, the problem with the data that he provided on the 6 schools is that important facts relative to the issue were missing. In order to make an informed decision, all facts have to be considered. I'm not interested in participating in a power struggle. I'm not interested in a tit-for-tat kind of exchange. I'm rather interested in solving a problem. That's it. The only thing Mr. Merrill's data provided was what time the teachers leave and what time the AC is adjusted. The complaint I brought had to do with the time that the custodial staff had to work in unair-conditioned areas, often using chemicals and cleaning fluids that are harmful in stagnant air situations. He could have easily had all the information he needs just by simply communicating effectively with administration at the schools. So, to me, the facts, as I see them, are as follows. Number 1, the custodial staff do not clean rooms that are in use, meaning that most of these classrooms have to be cleaned after school. It takes approximately 13 minutes to clean a room. often determined by the activities of that day, sometimes the grade level, and the size of the room. There's rarely, if ever, more than 2 custodians working the later shift in each school. The 6 schools that were identified by Mr. Merrill averaged out to about 46 classroom spaces each, some more, some less. And this doesn't consider the common areas or the office space. When you do the math there, you've got 46 classrooms, 13 minutes apiece. You have 598 minutes of work. If you have 2 custodians doing the work, they should be able to do it in half that time. But that's still 299 minutes, or almost 5 hours, to clean these rooms. Now, the ACs are being adjusted from what Mr. Merrill provided with those 6 classrooms as a, just something to look at, where the AC adjustment is occurring anywhere from 40 minutes to 2.5 hours after the teachers leave the rooms, meaning that the staff at these schools still need to work anywhere from 3 to 4 hours and 20 minutes beyond the time that adjustment is made. So the real fact here is that the work of the custodial staff was never considered a factor when determining this schedule. In fact, and one reason I have refused to bring about names of schools and names of people that I had talked to, because people are fearful. They don't want their names brought out, and I've been specifically asked not to bring out names. But I have been told by some administrators that when they questioned Synergistics about some of these time frames and the fact that they still had staff working during those time frames, they were told by Synergistics, and this is a quote that I was giving, "I don't think your administration cares about a few custodians."
What?
Now, where would they have gotten that idea? And therein lies the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Our next public comment.
Madam Chair, could I ask
Yes,
Ms. Dixon one question, not to discredit what you just said, because clearly that was impactful to all of us, but I did have a question on, you said that I thought I heard you say all 11th and 12th graders are taking the PERT now?
Mm-hmm. Ms. Dixon, could you go back to the mic? Thank you.
Correct. This year, in order for all teachers to get that VAM score, as a district, it's been decided that all 11th, and to the district's defense, honestly, it was either take the PERT or come up with an EOC for every single class. That was my understanding.
But I don't understand
So
it
the
all.
PERT score is going to hold as a VAM score for those teachers who don't teach those subjects that are already covered under the EOCs. Your PE, your art, your, I guess, certain, many other classes. Those PERT scores for all 11th and 12th graders are being looked at as a way to measure growth. So every 11th and 12th grader will be required to take both the PERT math and the PERT reading and writing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll hold my comments. I'll hold my comments till my board member comments.
All right, thank you. Mr. Travis Christensen?
One thing before we start, we have not had the motion or the adoption on C10. So are you already on the public speakers? Have you covered the motion and the second on C10 yet?
We did. C10 was a motion by...
It was postponed to the next meeting.
Oh, right.
It was
postponed, right.
And it was approved.
C10 was approval of the school improvement plan.
It's not on my agenda. The vote's not up.
It's not on there.
It's
not on the
on the
agenda.
consent agenda, isn't it?
It was moved, C10
Right.
was moved, you're right.
But
I'm
it doesn't
sorry.
show that on
We had a card on it, I skipped it. So we'll need approval of the school improvement plan. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Studdard, a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. I'm sorry. All right. Mr. Christensen?
Travis Christensen, 2871 Affirm Court. Basically want to extend congratulations Mrs. Bola, Mrs. Studdard, and of course Superintendent Davis on their elections, and of course to Madam Chair Karakis, finally has a gavel.
Watch out.
Not afraid to use it. And you've heard from many of the comments, there's a lot of challenges ahead of you, and I'm pretty confident for a first board meeting with a new superintendent, you know, you've been in a new chair. So far, I don't think you've missed a beat. I feel like you've been working this way for months. I just want to point out, like I said, many challenges. So I want to point out that Clay County is a very conservative county that has not been really, based on election results, has not been happy with its schools for a very long time. And in very tumultuous times, and I'd always like to point out, Superintendent Davis was preceded by 2 one-term superintendents. Mrs. Bola was preceded by 2 single-term school board members, and Mrs. Conan was preceded by a half-term school board member. So it's things can go bad pretty quick here, and I feel if you need to keep in mind the social climate of the county, or could undermine some of the important work that you need to do. That's what I want to point out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, next I have Miss Tammy Madston.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Madsden, and my address is on file. First, let me say congratulations, Mrs. Studdard, Mrs. Bola, and Mr. Davis. You worked extremely hard to get to this point tonight, and you gave us a lot of talk and during the campaigning, and we listened, and we're the people that got you here. So hopefully now you will listen to us with the respect that we have deserved. As many of you know, I have been one of the voices speaking out about high school counselors being attached to academies instead of the traditional alphabet. We are now in our 3rd year of this wall-to-wall academy model, and it has a few flaws. But tonight, I would like to touch on only one component and how it affects school counselors and their students. Mr. Davis, there were many attempts in the past 3 years to discuss the pros and cons with the district office, but every time it was brought up, we were told this is a non-negotiable topic. To be specific, those were Mr. Van Zant's exact words, and I still have the email. Also, at the end of the year last year, an email from the district was sent to all the high school counselors. Here is just one excerpt from the email. Quote, "Please know the experts told us it would be a tough transition. However, it is a transition which we are committed to from a district level. By all accounts of those who have lived this, like places in Clearwater and Tennessee, we are assured that this eventually gets easier and that school counselors and other staff members are able to develop even more high-quality relationships than are possible in a more traditional structure such as alphabet." Unquote. First, I'm disappointed in the word experts. It's a sad day when the district holds a consulting firm in higher regards than its counselors. We are the experts. Second, Clearwater and Tennessee were D schools. Why on this earth would we want to follow D-rated schools? Lastly, in no way have I built a stronger relationship with students due to being attached to an academy. If anything, it has caused confusion for the students, the teachers, the staff, the parents, the administration, and of course, school counselors. The district says this model is in the best interest of the students. Tonight, I do not want to speak for every school because I think that decision should be left up to each individual school. What is best for one school may not be the best for another school. So, my Christmas wish is for each high school to be allowed to determine how students will be distributed and bring back the respect to the professionals that we deserve. Please do not ask us to wait until the 17-18 school year, as some schools would like for the change to happen as soon as possible, as we are starting to schedule in February, and this would make our life, and it would be in the best interest of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next card is Ms. Kim Stacy.
Good evening. My name's Kim Stacy. My record's on the card. Better? Okay. Kim Stacy, record's on the card. All right. I want to welcome our new board members and our superintendent. I am excited, looking forward, about moving forward with the new school board and superintendents and making our school districts the best around. With the board and the superintendents, teachers, administration, principals, and the support employees working together, we can do this and give our children the best schools that they deserve. We can make Clay great again. I just want to thank y'all for letting me come up here and speak. I want to talk about the ACs because I am a custodian. And the heat. The heat is cutting off at 4:30 now. Well, I know we're Florida. We're hot in the day, cold at night, but that's Florida. We work hard. We're short because our custodian staffs are short, so we're working double hard. We're working a two-man job, one person. We're sweating. We got this fixed in here quickly. Imagine if we didn't get it fixed quickly, we'd all be sitting here sweating and we're not working. We've got to start taking care of some of our support people. We have to. We've got to, you know, we're working hard to keep our schools clean for our kids. We need to be able to work in a good environment, in a healthy environment. Before long, you're going to have people that's going to be starting having problems with breathing, with the cleaning fluids and things like that. And then we're going to be even shorter. So let's try to extend these ACs. They cut off at 4:30 every day. Custodians are there, some 7, some are even later. I know the high school and the junior highs don't get cut off as soon as the elementaries do because of the after-school sports. So we're actually pretty much saying all elementary kids, all elementary schools don't have an after-school sport, so they're not worthy of the AC and the heat. Basically is what's going on there. So I'm asking y'all to look at this to see what we can do about this so that we can correct this, especially the winter's coming. We're going to need the heat. We're going to need the heat. And won't be long behind it. Summer will be back and it'll be hot again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stacy. Next we have Rebecca Smith.
She's smiling.
There's no telling what she's going to say.
I'm going to try to behave tonight. My name is Rebecca Smith, and my address is on file. But you know I'm one that speaks how I feel, what I see. And I've sit back here and I've listened to others speak. And my heart goes out to the teachers, but mainly it goes out to our students. What are we telling them? They have to keep taking these tests over and over and over. Maybe, just maybe, if we teach our children, they could pass the test. Could that be possible? I mean, I have students getting on my bus, and when my students get on my bus, they become my kids. They're my children. And how they feel matters to me. I love my kids. But when I have one of my students tell me that they're stupid, that cuts deep. My students are not stupid. And as I told my students, you can do anything that you put your mind to. Because see, I've been where they're at. I was in a class that I felt like I couldn't get it. And I told the teacher, I can't do this. But she gave me a statement that has stuck with me all my life. And that statement is, you can do anything you put your mind to. You can do it. We are supposed to lift our children up, not push them down. We're supposed to encourage our children to dream the impossible dream, to achieve the impossible goal. What are we teaching them? What are we telling them? I'm telling you what my students are saying. They're saying they're failures. And as a parent, a grandparent, and a citizen of Clay County, and a school board member, it's unacceptable. It is time to listen to your teachers. I believe that we could turn this around if we allow our teachers to teach. It's basic common sense. You don't have to have a degree. It's basic common sense. And I believe if we take the time to look back what worked back in the back, when we was ranking 6 and doing so well, you may find that we weren't testing as much as we were today back then. It is time for us to do what's right for Clay County students. But I would like to take one moment to say, welcome back, Ms. Stutter. It was never a doubt. And Ms. Bola, it's good to see that we do have a teacher on board, and welcome Mr. Addison Davis as superintendent. That's all I got to say. Let's do what's right for our children. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we elected you to do. And believe you me, as the vote showed, we are watching.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ms. Kaplan, I have a second card. Did you want to speak again?
I couldn't cram it all into 3 minutes. So I made part 2. Okay, Melissa Kaplan, Clay County teacher. My address is on file. To continue my speech from earlier, I gave you a problem before, and I feel that if you're going to be part of the problem, you're the part of the problem or you're part of the solution, so I'm going to give you the solution. We need your help. Last January, I participated in the March on Tallahassee to let legislators know that this testing madness must stop. I've emailed, I've called, I've spoken to them. Mrs. Studdard and Mrs. Condon joined me and the other teachers in Clay County and Tallahassee, and I thank you both for doing that. I have sat through presentations to the school board, and I simply could not remember if it was Mr. Umbaugh or if it was Dr. Weiskopf, so please pardon me. I listened to that presentation on how our students are only testing for about 5% of their school year. I can't recall the exact figure, and I could not remember the month to look it up. But I can tell you that I believe those amounts to be wrong, simply based on what my students have experienced so far this year. I hear from my colleagues that teach English and math and biology that they do performance matters testing, which is district mandated testing. I am asking that you abolish the district mandated testing. I have every confidence in our teachers, and I wish that you did as well, that you could walk into any given classroom and ask who is where on standards, and teachers could tell you without ever opening that data binder. Do you really need another test to tell us where our students are in their level of mastery? How will they ever reach that level of mastery if they're not in the classroom to teach? Mrs. Smith, thank you for that. I do not teach English or reading anymore, but I can tell you which of my students are struggling with reading and comprehension. Basic math might be a little bit more challenging in my class, off the cuff, but I could certainly figure it out with 1 or 2 questions related to my subject area. You need to have faith in your teachers that they are teaching their subject standards. A test doesn't show you that. If you have administrators that are doing what they are supposed to do in helping and supporting teachers in the classroom, then the district mandating testing could be eliminated. Would you put this responsibility back onto the administrators, then the teachers, and never the students? That's my solution. When can teachers actually teach if the students are always out of the classroom for testing or retesting, or retesting or retesting? When can teachers plan effective lesson plans when we always seem to be in another required meeting? I'm asking that you continue to fight for our children. Please talk to the legislators. I'd be happy to join you with my data. Ending the district-mandated testing would go a long way to alleviating quite a bit of the time spent out of the classroom right now. Let's be bold. Our students need you, and they need us. We have to fight for them because no one else seems to be. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. Feel free to contact me if you'd like any more of my thoughts. I'd be happy to share them with all of you. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'm truly, truly thankful for this new school board. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Kaplan, I was there too.
She was in
I was at the
Tallahassee.
rally in Tally. There's a picture of all of us
Kyrgyz,
together.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The
But
three of
invite-
us were
Thank
there.
you. My apologies.
Maybe this year we'll get all 5 out there.
Yes, please. I'll be happy to. Well, I won't drive the bus. Mr. Nichols will do a better job.
Thank you. Next we have Hallie Jean Escalmia, and I apologize if I butchered your last name. And I do have 2 cards. The other one is Raul. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Haley Jane, and I would like to congratulate everyone for winning the nominations for our trust from our students and the parents of our school board. I want to talk to you guys about an issue I feel that needs to be addressed for Clay County. Clay County seems to be missing an important aspect, diversity and inclusion for other kids. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. I sing in my chorus. This is important to me because I have a chronic illness that prevents me from attending other curricular activities. I am in chorus. I am not a Christian, but my chorus teacher would have us sing Christianity songs. And she is asking me to either leave my identity behind with my religion or step off stage and not sing, or just stand there and not sing, or just leave the chorus. This option is single proof of a religious nature, so they want to keep the song because of its religious nature. That excludes me and other children from chorus and highlights our differences. Over 2 years, because of my illness, I have thought a lot about my differences. With every little stay at the hospital, during walks to the library and not being able to be in gym with my class, every rush to the nurse's office highlights every difference I have with other kids. I know the school board can't do anything about my illness, but I'm hoping that you guys can help us and other children that are not able to do other things with them. Like when we sing, we can't sing Christianity songs because it's depriving us of our religion. So I hope you guys can help us and other children find a way to sing songs and have fun at our schools without being deprived of who we are. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Haley. That took a lot of courage to come up and speak to this board. You did a very good job. Mr. Escalmia?
Good evening. My name is Roel Escamilla. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
Everybody messes it up.
I'm sorry.
I would like to add my congratulations to Superintendent Davis and the board members. I was very proud to cast a vote for you guys, and I'm happy that at least one of my votes worked. So I rise tonight. I want to ask you a question.
I won't go there.
To what degree does Clay County value diversity and inclusion? You heard my daughter talk about feeling excluded because of our religious beliefs. I'm actually not going to address the religious beliefs, but rather a cultural diversity issue that exists in Clay County schools. Are we satisfied with best intentions and tokenism in our curriculum, in our classrooms, and for our students? Best intentions can lead to teachers inadvertently reducing diverse cultures of a continent like Africa to stereotypes and stereotypical understandings. It might lead a teacher to thinking they're bringing the rich traditions of Christmas in Mexico by playing for their students Feliz Navidad. Both of these situations occurred this year at my daughter's school. Both of these situations illustrate a profound cultural insensitivity. While I'm willing to acknowledge that these well-intentioned actions, the results were still the same: the perpetuation of stereotypes and the marginalizing of diverse cultures of people from different countries. Florida State standards are designed to aid in the instruction of global citizens. We have in the education of global citizens who have an appreciation and understanding of diverse cultures, respective of people's times and places in worlds outside of the communities our students live in. With diversity education, the old adage holds true: you don't know what you don't know. So imagine my surprise when the degree of cultural insensitivity was raised to my daughter's school administration and the district, and the response wasn't a discussion about adjusting curriculum or choir song selections, but rather a flat-out refusal to remove the offending material. It is the duty of school officials, administrators, and teachers to fully commit to legitimate efforts towards diversity and inclusion in our schools. Any hurdle that impedes those efforts should be removed, at best, circumvented at least. Tokenism practices to recognize diverse cultures and people are not befitting our school system, our teachers, or our students. Efforts to recognize and celebrate diverse cultures and people must recognize more than just linguistic differences. Materials that marginalize people and perpetuate offensive stereotypes must not be defended by simply saying, "We've always done this," "Our teachers mean well," or "It's fun and cute to see the students perform these performances." Those arguments have been what we've been experiencing in this discussion. I'm asking you, the board and the superintendent, to draft a set of guidelines to aid teachers and administrators in selecting materials that address the intent of diversity and inclusion in our classrooms, and that those guidelines give a clear expectation as to how to address culturally insensitive materials, whether they be in the classroom or meant for extracurricular activities.
Thank you. Ms. Renali Paiva, I had a second card. Did you want to address? Okay, thank you. And the last card is Ms. Brandy Mackey.
I start now. Brandy Mackey, cards on the address on the card. Y'all know where I'm at. But Brandy Mackey, but at the board meetings, I'm Mama Mackey. So let me say congratulations to everyone that's new on here. And those that are new, I am welcoming any help that you guys can give me towards what's going on. So 3 minutes. I'm here like I am all the time for the interest of my children. My son's a senior. He's graduating and still having issues. Was really angry at the last game. He's a senior, top 5 in Northeast Florida for some kind of sacks or something like that. I don't know, that's a daddy question, but he did make the paper. However, the coaches decided not to play him his second or the first 2 halves of the game. Senior game, last year. You guys, if you don't know, I'm so glad Mr. Sykes is going to stay another month so he can fill you up with all the stuff. We don't have to go back and forth. I'm sure he'll be excited to tell you we also have tape. So, Mr. Sykes, I'm glad you're staying another 30 days. But they decided not to let my son play. First 2 halves of the game. And that really made me mad. So, it needs to be fixed. You want to be transparent? I'm transparent. I'm happy about things that happen, but that hurt me and my son to the core. And anybody that knew what happened, Pittman, Wingate, all of you guys that knew about what happened with Coach Hall telling me to take my son to Trinity to play with 3 other players and did nothing about it. We came back, we fought strong, he played excellent. But for them to do that at the last end and not to be thoughtful, and right now we're still waiting for letters to come in. I can't even call Pittman and feel confident of calling him or Coach Springs to ask them if letters are coming in, because of what of everything that's been going on. So, you know, you're here, you guys, at least 3 of you was on the board and you didn't do anything, but I forgive you for it, but let's do something better coming forward, because now that we've moved it to another day for disciplinary action, maybe there'll be an appeal for when a parent has been disrespected by a coach, then you'll hear it on another day so it doesn't run into the regular board meetings. So I look forward to working with all of you all. Mama Mackey out. Oh, I still got 22 minutes. Congratulations, for real. I really, really appreciate it. Just to let you guys know, I am a forgiving person. Miss Johanna McKinney came to the restaurant to eat with me, and I said it was okay. So, Mr. Van Zandt, if you're out listening, you're welcome to. Come on by. All right. Thank you. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Miss Mackey. Okay, that's it for presentation from the audience. Mr. Superintendent, it's superintendent request.
So first and foremost, I've said this many times, I am honored, humbled, and truly excited to be the next superintendent of Clay County Public School System. I've had the opportunity to, meet so many different people in the last 15 months, and I would say in the last 2 weeks, probably equivalent number of people that I've met new. It's been a fun ride. But, I've talked so many things about where I want to go with this district and what my vision will be for elevating the experiences in Clay County Public School System. Today, as soon as upon entry, I gave every board member my 100-day plan. It is my superintendent transition plan. I hope to not put them to sleep because it's 20 pages long and very detailed and descriptive. But it's a blueprint for us moving in the right direction, for us to work collectively with every stakeholder, every educator, every administrator, every student in order to identify what's working, what's not, and what we can do differently. I will seek to launch my superintendent's entry plan by December 1. The board members are the first ones to have it hot off the press because I truly value their thoughts, and I look forward to their feedback in order to make a better product to put out to all of our constituents. This plan will identify a number of areas that we will address, and it will be basically driven to collaborate, to listen, to learn, to share visions from stakeholders and mine, to action plan, to problem solve, and more importantly to act. So I'm truly excited about Elevating Clay. That's the document's name. It'll be Elevating Clay, and it's going to be used to really have the 100-day plan for us to identify key findings, feedback, and observations in order to create a thoughtful strategic plan moving forward after the end of the 100-day cycle. I will provide updates every 30 days to the board during my superintendent remarks, and also to keep the board truly engaged in this process. But this will be an opportunity for me to really truly learn the ins and outs of this county and better leverage my human capital, which is time, people, money, in order to accelerate student achievement and create the best experiences. Coming in, so many things that I wanted to do. And tonight, I want to make certain that you truly understand and the board understands that my 3 top areas of focus will be to look at our fiscal status in order to make sure I have better understanding of how every dollar and every cent is being spent within this county. To do a number of things, to make sure we have a goal-based management system, that we're all moving in the same direction and we're being very intentional with our funding, but at the same time trying to really meet the reserve higher than 3%. We really should be working to meet 7, 8, 9%. That's really a healthy fiscal county. I'm not saying we can get there, but we got to have aspirations and create a blueprint in order to follow it. And And then the biggest thing we need to look at is our curriculum. Our curriculum to really understand and use a revised IMET process, which is the Instructional Materials Evaluation Tool, to really figure out, to make sure that the curriculum is aligned to our state standards, and really providing an opportunity for our kids not only to be at grade level, but go beyond from an enrichment standpoint, and really push our system to think differently about how we teach whole group, holistically, but more importantly, how we put interventions in place for Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction, which is whole group and individualized and personalized instruction. And finally, my commitment is to look at our climate and culture. We have been so fragmented, and not to be disrespectful, from the board to the superintendent to the board, and from the district to our teachers, district to our support staff, to our leaders, to our staff, to our principals, to our superintendent, whatever it may be. Now is our time to start a new day. And Mr. Christensen said it well today. He didn't speak long. He had plenty of time left over. But what he pretty much said is that, wow, this is the first time for me as well that we come to a meeting in the last 15 months where we see laughter, where we see collaboration, where we see a ability to have a new horizon and collaborate and work forward. Now, I'm not naive. I know that there's always a honeymoon period, but I am committing to the county, I'm committing to our stakeholders to build a personal relationship with every board member so that we have this professional conversation. I've had the opportunity to speak with each of these individuals over the last week, and they have exhibited nothing but professionalism, and everybody in their heart wants to do what's right by kids. And I told you from day one, my heart is for kids. And I will do everything I can to provide support and be that downfield blocker so principals and teachers can go do the real work every single day. And I will create that opportunity for everyone in this room in order to create excitement and attract newcomers to Clay County Public School System. So all that to say, I know there's a number of things that we will work to do, and I will dedicate in the next 2 weeks to really looking at the AC issue and also the testing issue, and bring back a solution to the board so we make an informed decision. But ultimately, all this to say, I'm excited, and I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, school board request. Ms. Gilhausen, let's start with you.
Oh boy, I get to go first.
I know, that's the thing of that
Some
chair.
advantages to being down
Right?
there, yeah.
Well, I just want to offer my congratulations to Ms. Bola and Ms. Studdard and Mr. Davis. I spoke with you all after the elections and offered it them there, but I want to announce publicly my congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
Superintendent Davis, the couple of conversations we've had so far, I've really appreciated your professionalism and the ideas that you've put forward. It's exciting to see that you're putting so many processes in place to foster a collaborative environment, and I really appreciate that from you. Ms. Studdard, I look forward to working with you for another couple years at least, and appreciate what you bring to the board and your seniority and your wealth of knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
And Ms. Bola, I'm very much looking forward to getting to know you, and I think we're going to enjoy our school board conference together.
Absolutely.
With some relationship building and new learning. So with that, I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you all have the time to take to appreciate the things that we all have to be thankful for at this time of year.
That's right.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
Are we ready? I have a whole list of things we need
Oh,
to do.
dear.
Get ready.
I've heard that before.
Yes.
Did you
I need
sit
to
in
start-
Betsy's seat? I'm sorry.
I wrote notes, by the way.
That's okay.
I need to...
I abdicated the throne over here.
First of all, I want to speak to Teresa and Kim and tell you thank you for speaking about synergistics. I'm not certain exactly when the decision was made to bring synergistics in. Coming from other states, I don't know that they understood the heat of Florida, nor do they understand the swings in the different temperatures that we have. I was one of those teachers who stayed after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would frequently go back to my box and try to punch down the temperature. And it would go down for a few minutes, and then it would go right back up to that hold lock. More recently, with the cold weather in the morning, the heat's on, which is awesome. But unfortunately, after my children went to PE at 10 in the morning, and they came back into the classroom, and Synergistics hadn't caught up with us yet on the cool air coming in, it made it pretty uncomfortable to teach, and it made it very uncomfortable for the children. Close to our custodians. Custodians are some of the backbones of our schools, and they keep us running. I would not want to clean up after a child who has just vomited in my classroom. I was on the radio immediately and walking the rest of the class out the door. I did not want to clean up in the cafeteria. I did not want to do a lot that you folks do. And you do it with the love of those children. And that is what is incredibly important to them. And it's incredibly important to all of the teachers as well, and to the administration. And the fact that they do turn off the air conditioning when it's 96 degrees outside at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that temperature just climbs. It doesn't go down until after dark, and during that time of year, it's not dark until much later. So I hear what you're saying. I'm hoping that as a board we can review that again and determine what the outcome is going to be, what our next step is going to be. Miss Becky, you know I love you, and I'm waiting on a bus schedule. I want to ride the bus, honey. You know I do, and I do not want to be, no offense, on an ESC bus. I would like to be on a regular bus with no air, no whatever, and I'd like to see what it's like. And don't put me in a really nice bus neighborhood, please. I would like to go on the bus. I'd like to find out what you bus drivers are doing, because without our knowledge, without your knowledge, we can't help make decisions for you either. I need to do a special thanks, a special call out to Teresa Roman and Michelle Corsi, the principal and assistant principal at Argyle Elementary School. They were phenomenal during my decision to run for this office. They were incredibly supportive, and I think we did a very professional job in keeping the politics out of the school and away from our children. I have to admit, though, that when the children came up to me and informed me that they had gone to a door and knocked on the door to find out if that's where I lived, and they found out that that's not where I lived, and I said, well, why did you go to the door to see if that's where I lived? Well, because your sign was out front, Mrs. Bola. And I quickly corrected them and said, well, that's very sweet, but you're going to see more signs, so please do not go to all of those doors. I have to also do a shout out to the faculty at Argyle Elementary, because I brought along tonight my school board survival kit that I got. And I am making this available to any of you that would like to use it. There are all sorts of things in here from the 5th grade, and I believe from the 2nd grade, if I'm not mistaken. I always get the primary grades all messed up.
Share with us what's in there.
I don't know if you really want to know all of them. One of the first thing that came out, when you want to roll your eyes but need to stay professional, I have a pair of googly eyes here. So if you see me donning this, you'll know exactly what I'm thinking of. And a variety of other things. Well, there's a roll of duct tape in here, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
I think I know who that's for.
Yeah, and Kleenex for wiping tears, and earplugs when you don't want to hear cotton balls when the earplugs don't work, and Excedrin migraine when neither of the others work. So, you know, you got the idea. I am looking forward to so many things in this county. I'm looking forward to being invited to read to your kinders. I'm looking forward to Literacy Week and being invited into lots of schools to read. I am looking forward to the spelling bee coming up. I am looking forward most definitely to the Teacher of the Year and Support Staff of the Year awards ceremony coming up. So incredibly important. I want to say thank you to all of you. It is the week of Thanksgiving. It is tradition for all of us to say thank you. But before Thanksgiving Day, for you math geeks out there, and for anybody who teaches math, tomorrow is Fibonacci Day. And if you're not familiar with it, it is 1123, and you might want to look that up. Fibonacci is a personal friend of mine, mathematician. So anybody who celebrates Pi Day might also know about Fibonacci Day. So thank you. I got one up there. Very good. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Ms. Condon?
Well, I echo Mrs. Gilhousen's sentiments for Mrs. Bola, Mrs. Studdard, and Mr. Davis, and so I won't take time reiterating those because you said it. I couldn't say it better than you. And I won't take time to talk about all of the school activities that we've been in because I have some things that that obviously are more important. I want to commend Ms. Bankert and the whoever the team is that came up with the parent engagement and the daily Facebook changes, or maybe it's weekly, but it's conversation starters between parents and students about what's going on in school. And I've heard from parents that that has been a great tool to use at their dinner tables, so thank you for that. I know that this has been a Parent Engagement Month. Mr. Umbaugh had sent us all the email about all of our different schools that got state recognition for achievement last year on their FSA testing and things like that, but I happened to be with Mrs. Sanders and on the day that she got hers, and she and Ms. Winkler were just glowing, and they were so proud of the achievement of their students, the work that their teachers and all of the employees had put in at Keystone Elementary for their gains, and the parents who were supportive of that. And it was really meaningful and impactful to me to be there to the day they got the handwritten letter from Governor Scott to commend them on their gains. And that really makes it personal. And while it's personal every day for all of you who are out there with our students, it's nice to get that recognition. And so I just wanted to publicly commend all of you for that great effort in all of the schools that got those. Not that I wouldn't commend the effort put in the schools that didn't quite make the gains to get that. We all know how that works also. I wanted to, before I go to my last item, which is, as you all know, is near and dear to my heart, is assessment. I did want to ask that we as a board consider the master board training with our new superintendent, that we can all, it's offered through the Florida School Board Association, and I know there's a small cost to it, but I think to start off on the right foot, that would be really a good collaborative effort. Oh, am I? I'm sorry, Mrs. Studdard. But that was on my heart, that we maybe could consider that, and that we are all going down for FSBA in a week and a half, I guess.
No,
and
next week.
Next week. Oh yeah, a week.
Like
in a week.
Tuesday.
A week from tonight, okay. And then finally, assessment. So obviously, as you all saw, I was shocked to learn that all of our 11th and 12th graders are taking the PERT. So I pulled up our assessment schedule, and I missed it. It's on here. And I guess I'm shocked and disappointed, one, that something that we didn't do the year before is now on our testing calendar, and we didn't know it as a board, because I remember lots of discussion about this assessment calendar, and that wasn't mentioned. And I'm not saying that each individual thing should be mentioned, but it's shocking to find out that, from a personal standpoint, it's shocking to find out that your child believes that they're through all those assessments that Ms. Kaplan said. When you have a child who's had struggles with those assessments and it's personal in your home, and you think you're finally done and you find out you're not, that's shocking and disappointing. And but then on the professional level, that we would use this item, and I guess the PERT, it brings up, obviously, you can tell the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, because the governor specifically said last year, and the legislature specifically said last session, that we were not going to require the PERT of 11th graders because we were testing them too much. So then for our district to decide this, I guess I feel like on the one hand, I agree with all of you that have spoken about assessments. You know, I am willing to go and talk to anybody and everybody who will listen, and I have, and I will again. My however is that our legislature has given us some options that we haven't taken as a district. We have the Seminole solution got passed last year, and I know that that's not an end-all be-all, because we still have third grade testing and 8th grade testing, but the Seminole solution approved that we could use ACT or SAT as concordance and not have to do, you don't even have to do FSA if you want to give everyone the ACT. And so appropriate level skills, not the ACT, for entering college. But I guess, and we've talked before about having a workshop around assessment as a board, and I know we have a new superintendent and everybody's getting on board, but I guess it's kind of alarming to me that it just feels like every meeting we find out more about assessment. And I know that there's people that are working really hard to try to check every box with the state requirements in our district, and I appreciate the work you're doing. But sometimes I think that maybe we're overthinking it, or I don't know, but it just doesn't feel right to me. And I know it's not a feeling, I know it's a logic. We're in it for logic, and I know what Gary Chartrand with our state school board has said. That's rather harsh. And I won't quote him because I'll misquote him, but he basically said if you can't measure up, then you can't measure up. And I don't think that's fair for kids, and I'm not willing to leave those kids behind. And so anyway, that's my soapbox for tonight. But I guess, and I'm not trying to put a damper on a great night and a great meeting, but I just feel like assessment has been lost.
I think we all agree with you. Mrs. Studdard?
Okay. I was jotting notes throughout the night, and so it's probably disjointed, and I may do things in the wrong order here that I wanted to say. First of all, I'm tickled to death to serve for another 4 years. I'm glad that election's over. Congratulations, Mrs. Bola. Congratulations, Mr. Davis. And I would be remiss. I looked out across this room. There were many, many people in this audience who worked day and night for Team ABC, and I want to say thank y'all for everything you did. I mean, walking, stuffing, everything. Y'all were wonderful. The other thing that I'm excited about tonight is I look out across the room and I keep seeing smiles. I mean, y'all are all just giggly. I mean, it's crazy. It's been a long time since I have enjoyed a board meeting, really enjoyed it. And as you said, there's a honeymoon period, and there's going to be things that come up that we're not going to be a 5-0 vote on, and maybe we won't do what you want us to do. But I want to tell you this, Addison Davis. It is the most refreshing thing in the world to sit here and listen to you talk. I mean, you are an educator. You are talking the language. And I'm learning already. After 24 years, I'm learning things from you. And I look forward to continuing to learn. And I feel a sense with these ladies here. I feel a sense of a new start, a new beginning. Everybody's got, I think we're all wanting so badly to improve this district. And when you talked about elevating Clay, we're behind you 100%. We want to elevate Clay. We're going to get back up in the top districts in this state, one way or the other. Okay, and we're going to be here to help you out. Congratulations, Ms. Karakas. You finally got to be chairman. Good for you. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Just keep me straight.
I would like to commend, too. This is wonderful. Never had anything like this before. So you've given us some homework to study this. Yeah, that's good. I'm saying thank you. This is really good. And also, do you know what he did today? He sent the board an email, and he invited us to go with him to 4 schools the Monday after we get back from Tampa. He asked the board members to go with him to 4 schools. I've been on this board 24 years. I've never had anybody ask us to go to 4 schools in a morning. I was shocked and elated. This is wonderful. I mean, I sense a sense that we've got so many good things going. It's great. And this is what I want. I agree with what I've heard on testing. We are being tested to death, so I'm anxious to see your plan on that. I'm anxious to sit down and talk to you. You said you wanted to do one-on-one meetings. I want to know what's going on up there, and I want to know your plan. And I guess I can read part of it here. And then...
It's a lot, so hopefully it doesn't put you to sleep, but it's a lot.
All right. I have a concern, as Ms. Bolas talked about, with the heating and air conditioning. I'm not sure about this synergistic thing. I'll just be honest with you, but I'm anxious to get your input. I would like to know what you think about Ms. Masden's speech about wall-to-wall academies and the impact it's having. I also want to know what you think about GPS. Okay. Those are 4 things that are on my mind right now. Next Tuesday, this board and the superintendent are going to the Florida School Board Association, the conference in Tampa. We're going to have a learning experience. They have a session for brand new board members. You'll love that. It's going to be fun, and I think it'll be good for us to have a chance to just be together away from the board floor, kind of get to know each other. Like y'all said tonight, your 2 girls were so pretty. You know, we need to get to know each other, and that we can do that while we're, you know, having hors d'oeuvres or something.
I have some Christmas shopping to do if you want to do that together.
Oh, I'm always ready to go shopping. You know, that's
Carol
my
and
thing.
her retail therapy.
Retail therapy. That's the
Oh,
best
yeah,
thing
that's-
going. Let's see what else. I do want to say this. I wrote this down. The most exciting thing in this room tonight is I sat here and witnessed respect, cooperation, a sense of good things to come, and I am just so tickled that I'm going to get to help. And with that, I do wish you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
All right, thank you. Well, I have a list too. And my first item is actually kind of business, and so I don't mean to put a damper on this pleasant atmosphere, but it is.
I already did that.
I know. But and I agree with what you said completely. I agree with what all of you have said tonight, and we have been battling the AC thing for a few months now. It certainly needs to be revisited, and that we might have been sold a bill of goods when that came before us because it sounded so wonderful, and it's turning out that synergy not to be so wonderful. So we really should look at that. And but the thing that's I kind of feel is pressing for me is the investigation that we have going into the ESE situation here in our district. And I'm not going to get into any conversation about it. I would just like to ask this board, when that was brought to us, according to the statute and the letter that came from the Office of Inspector General, that was supposed to come to the board for the board to discuss and determine what we wanted to do. Did the board want to have an internal investigation, or did the board want the Office of the Inspector General to handle it? There was a lot of confrontational conversation that took place at the time, and the chairman did not bring it to us. She took it upon herself to direct the superintendent to have an internal investigation done. Since then, I know that they have a team, a husband and wife team, who have been working diligently trying to interview, but I know for a fact that there's quite a few people who have refused to be interviewed or have been fearful of telling all the truth. So I would like to ask the board for consensus to, I guess we would be instructing the superintendent to ask the Office of Inspector General to come in and do an investigation, an unbiased one, that it kind of it takes it out of the district so that there's no appearance of anything improper going on and people feel comfortable talking to someone outside. So I guess I'd like to ask if there's consensus on that, we need to instruct the superintendent to sever the contract that we have with the existing, I have to apologize, I don't remember their name, that's doing it, and collect all investigative material reports that have been generated and produced by them in conjunction with, because they were hired by Mr. Van Zandt and Ms. McKinnon, and not, our duty as board members, this is one of the things that falls solely on us. And if you go back and look at that letter that we got, it quotes statute. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote it to you. But this should have been handled by the Office of Inspector Generals, just so that there was nothing inappropriate, any appearance of anything inappropriate. So I'd like to ask the board for consensus to go ahead and draft a letter to the Office of Inspector General asking them to do an outside investigation into
I think you'd have to do that properly by a motion. You'd have to agenda it because it's already out there. The Inspector General's office is the one that recommended you do the FADs in the system that we've done. So essentially, you're asking them to take back what they've already recommended us do. The referral that we had was recommended by the Inspector General's office. Mr. Broski, you want to jump into it?
That's correct. The Inspector General kicked it back to the district, saying that they didn't have the authority to investigate. The board chair then decided that it would be an internal investigation, and under policy, I don't remember the number, Mr. Sykes.
I don't have it in front of me either, but it came back to me, and the thought process was that if I did the investigation, there's no way you'd accept that. And so in conjunction with the Inspector General and discussions with Mr. Broski, we got the outside investigators, so it's not being done internally, and so that there is nobody's fingerprints on this, and it's being done by a completely objective outside party. And that's the investigation we're waiting to have completed.
Which should be done in the next week.
I'm not in agreement with that at all. This really was not something that was the superintendent's decision. The board chair acted inappropriately by directing the superintendent to go ahead and contact FADS. FADS had nothing to do with this. And I honestly will tell you, and Mr. Sykes, please don't take offense, because like you said, you didn't handle it. But I don't believe the feedback that I've gotten from employees that they're fearful to answer the questions honestly or even meet.
Our internal policy sets forth two people that have the authority, the Inspector General and the School Board Attorney. And in conjunction with the Inspector General, we went with the FADS route, and it was my recommendation to the chairman to do that because it allowed an outside party to do an objective investigation without any sort of political influence. And so if you want to change that, then I would recommend that you need to do a motion and a second, and then you vote on it, and then you got to decide, are you going to take it away from having an objective investigation, and you're going to have a subjective investigation that you're going to have, who else you're going to get? Because FADS is the people that recommended this. So if you want to have somebody, I mean, who else are you going to get? That's the question.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question? Because I'm getting confused now. Did this get referred to the Inspector General's office, who referred this man and woman who's been doing the investigation, or was it referred to the Superintendent's Association, who referred you to this man and woman?
It was FADS that made the recommendation.
So it has not been to the Inspector General's office?
Inspector General first gave it back to the district.
Which is policy, that's the statute, that's the course of action. When a complaint is made, this doesn't fall under, and I know Mr. Sykes and I disagree on this, but this does not fall under anything that has to do with school board policy.
When there's fraud, the fraud calls for an investigation. When there's allegations of fraud against the school board officer, superintendent, the school board policy, I don't have in front of her, specifically states 2 people are authorized pursuant to board policy to do the investigation, the Inspector General's office or the school board attorney. And as I said, I knew there was no way that if I did the investigation that you would find it objective, and I wanted to make sure there was an objective and independent evaluation. So in conjunction with Mr. Broski, we conferred with the Inspector General's office, and we talked to FADS, and that's where we got the investigator that was completely objective and has nothing to do with this and has no agenda in this anywhere at all. Now, if you want to pull that out and have somebody else do it, I think the way that you do it, you can't do it by consensus. You have a motion and a second, and then you vote what is it you want to do. If you want to withdraw the investigation from those investigators that are a week out from completing and have them start all over again, you have to do that by motion and a second. And I think you got to set that for the board to decide. But you can't do it by simple consensus. And I don't think that, I mean, if you want to take it away, I think you need to have a vote have to motion second,
For-
and then
Through
whatever
the
it is you
chair,
do.
I'm going to ask one more time because I still don't know the answer. Did we refer this, did you send this to the Inspector General's office?
What we did, Mr. Broski and myself, we contacted the IG's office, and the IG did not want to do the investigation, and that's how it got back to me.
And so then it was just given to the Superintendent's Association, and they said use this
They
man, recommended this person. Are you telling me that the Inspector General's office would not investigate this?
I don't have the letters in front of me, but that basically is my recollection. Mr. Broski, do you remember anything different? I don't have the letter in front of me.
My recollection is they sent a letter to the school board chair. The school board chair then kicked it back for an internal investigation through, I think it's 2.53 is the number, but don't quote me on that, the board policy. It then is up to 2 people to make that recommendation, which is...
That's for employees,
That's
isn't
their
it?
employees, not the superintendent or school board
That's
members.
policy addresses employees.
Right.
Right. The investigation to ESC is dealing with the individuals within the district that were implicated. The superintendent's allegations are currently being investigated by the Commission on Ethics, which my
You're
understanding...
talking about the plagiarism?
Right. They would investigate both of those, ma'am.
All right, so this
Ethics
is,
usually gets involved if there's
what you just
money.
said, Mr.
Right.
Brodsky, is
Fraud committed by any elected official. The Commission on Ethics would be the right body to do the investigation.
Whatever body.
No, that's not accurate.
I don't think so.
That is not accurate at all. The, what you said was correct. The letter did come from the Inspector General's office to the chairman of the board. And in that letter, it states statute that that complaint needs to come to the 5 board members to determine if we are unwilling or unable to do this investigation. If we are willing to do it and able to do it, fine. If we are unwilling and unable, we send a letter back to the Office of Inspector General, and they will conduct the investigation. The chairman of the board refused to bring it to us, the body here, that is the governing body, that it was our decision to make, and took it upon herself to instruct the superintendent to do the investigation. The superintendent sent it to FADS. FADS then kicked back to the district with the name of this husband and wife team to do the investigation. That's where we're at. I would like this district to send a letter back to the Office of Inspector General. I do not believe it has to be an action item because it was never an action item to begin with. It's at the board's discretion as per that original letter. Could somebody send that letter to Mrs. Bola? Mr. Superintendent Davis, could you have that a letter? I'm sure it's somebody can send it to you, but have them send it to Mrs. Bola so she'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about in the future when you go through all of this, and you'll see the statute. But it very clearly states that that is the board chairman is to bring it to the school board, who is the governing body, and the school board is to determine, do we do an internal investigation, or if we are unwilling or unable, those are the exact words, unwilling or unable, we instruct the Office of Inspector General to do the investigation. I would like this board to, through general consensus, because I do not believe it needs an action, a motion, and a second, to instruct the Office of Inspector General to do an investigation.
So you're recommending we go against council? That's what
Yes,
I'm understanding?
I am.
I can't get on board with that, Ms. Garrikus. I feel like we're making ourselves liable in what is an official investigation.
It's official through the FADS. It's not official through the Office of Inspector General.
But it's a legal investigation.
Well, that's subjective. I mean, we have people who clearly have said to me, I don't know if any of you have gotten phone calls, but I have gotten phone calls from people who are afraid to talk to this investigating team, and some who flat out refuse to be interviewed, who have vital information that needs to be shared.
I understand their concern for sure. But at the same time, if this is an outside couple, I'm not sure that their fears are grounded, if that makes sense. If we have an outside couple that's doing the investigation, they don't have hiring, firing, political power in the county, it seems like the fears would be unfounded. And not to minimize their fears, because I know being in a situation, I worked in labor and delivery, it's a very litigious industry to be in, and to sit through depositions where people are questioning what you did. It's very intimidating, regardless of who's doing that interviewing. So I hate to make a decision based on emotion when we have counsel advising us otherwise.
Well, I don't agree with that, and only because I've read the statute, and that should have come to the board, and this team that's investigating it is chosen. Mr. Van Zant sent it to FADS, and they chose it. It's not through the Office of Inspector General. I don't know how to argue that any other way to present it to be more convincing that.
Well, if this is your desire, I think what would be wise is to follow the recommendation that it be an agenda item for action, so that we all have time to go home, read the letter, and make an informed decision.
I would agree with that only because Mrs. Bola hasn't read the letter, and because I do agree with you that we act as one body, and so I think that it would be more powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
To have us act as one body on that, and I would like the opportunity also to read the statute, and I had read it all back in the time we had gotten the copies of the letters, but it's not at the forefront of my mind tonight.
Right. That's how I feel about it too. I'd like time to just revisit it.
Well, we're going to be meeting with the superintendent with his new schedule for the agenda. We'll be having a workshop on December 6th. Is that the date? I would like this to be agended as an action item for December 6th.
Can we have an action item at a workshop?
Absolutely.
No, you can't.
you
What you
can't.
do
We
is
have to
you would
make it a
schedule
special
it as a
meeting.
special meeting / workshop.
Right.
You can't, we don't act at a workshop.
Created
It has
a
to be
special-
either a special meeting or a regular meeting. It has to be noted, it has to be published as such.
Right.
Well, and the workshop needs to be published that way too, so has it been advertised yet?
So do you want to have a workshop and a separate special meeting, or do you want to combine the two and just have one special meeting?
We'll be in the building one, but you'll have a workshop, and then when it's
And
over,
close
then
that.
you open a
Okay.
special meeting.
Yeah.
Can may I give my input on this? I'm to wait my turn. I think that's a good idea. That'll give us a chance to go back. I was thinking, you might need to get that letter, someone's got it, I don't know.
It's in our email.
Is it?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Give us a clue when we
I
got
know I
it.
still have it, so
I'm sure it's on the email, I just have to go back and hunt it.
Will you forward it to
I sure
everybody if
will.
you still have
Yeah.
it? Thank you.
I would like to go back and read the letter again. I do remember it saying to bring it to the board, because I remember sitting
remember
right
that
where
too.
you're sitting, thinking, that's supposed to come to the board.
Yeah.
But it was kind of,
I remember that as well.
got,
Well, I appreciate everybody being
But-
willing to look at this again.
but I'm in full agreement. The one thing that I've heard Mr. Davis say on the campaign trail for months and here tonight is I want to be transparent. And if there is any question, I want it put to bed. This has been dragging on for months and months and months. And so let's get to the bottom of it, and then we can go on with our life. And you said the Commission on Ethics, Mr. Brodsky, is looking at the plagiarism, okay? So I think if we have a chance to go back and read that letter and think about it, that's a win-win for us.
Right.
And through the chair, we will publish our meeting for agenda review on the 28th on Monday, which gives us sufficient time. And at the same time, we will be able to meet and call a special meeting to problem solve any way that we can from our side to better help understand our direction.
All right, thank you.
May I say one more thing? I keep thinking of these things. When we go to Tampa next week for the conference, the breakfast meeting of the Northeast Florida School Board Coalition, that's another meeting you get to go to, Ms. Bola. It's in St. Augustine. We meet there, and it's all the counties in Northeast Florida get together.
7:30 in the morning.
But
That's right when school gets started, thanks, yeah.
but that's going to be a good thing to go to. Dr. Joyner is going to be the speaker talking about school board and superintendent relationships.
He's actually my mentor.
I love it. You've got the best mentor in the state then.
Ask for him.
He's wonderful. Yeah.
You have him for 1 month, and then he retires, doesn't he, in January?
He does, but I've asked through FADS for him to be my mentor, superintendent mentor for the first year and ongoing.
And he agreed to do it?
He has agreed to do it. So,
Cool.
Now, it may change, but right now we're on board, and we aspire to be as good or better than St. John's, and why not activate his knowledge and
That's right.
figure out how we move forward.
He's a true gentleman. You're in good hands.
He's wonderful. Yeah.
Did anybody else want to add anything else about that before I go on to my next thing? All right. Well, it was the FSBA conference. I'm so excited that all 5 of us are going and the superintendent. And I just really, really want to encourage Mrs. Bola to get involved with the certified board member training. I know that Ms. Gilhausen and Ms. Condon, you're probably just about done, that they've been involved and they're getting their training, and you don't know what you don't know until you get there, and then you think, why did I run for this? Because it's just, there's so much. So,
Ms. Karakas, I'm already thinking that at times.
you know, it's one of the best tools and resources that we have. You know, you can't call each other up and ask questions, and you might have a friend in another county, but they may not be the same size. You know, they might be in Duval or somewhere else, but you can call out to FSBA, and they are just a wealth of knowledge, and they have helped me as a board member, and I believe because of them, I'm a better board member than I was when I first got on. Not everybody might agree with that, but I am. So I just really want to encourage you to get involved, and you'll love it. The next thing is, Mrs. Studdard and I were at Rotary today for our Rotary luncheon, and we are scheduled for February 7th for our science fair. And today they brought it up that we need to change the day to a Monday, February 6th. And when we asked why, she wasn't really sure, she didn't know, and I found out that it's the same day as the All-County Chorus, which, you know, this is not the first time something like this has happened. Last year we had an issue too with being double or triple scheduled. So I'm asking the superintendent, can you put together some type of master calendar for events and activities so something like this doesn't get double booked? The science fair is probably the biggest event we do in the county. We have it down at the fairgrounds. We have every Rotary Club in the county working that day, judging. We serve lunch to all the Rotarians and all the children, and that's Tuesday is our day to meet. So we're probably gonna lose a lot of Rotarians that will help because of this conflict of the schedule. And I understand that the chorus can't be moved, but it's already that scheduled for the Thrasher the same night. But if there's a way to put together a master calendar to prevent this in the future, it would be helpful to everybody. Mr. Umbod, did you want to say something?
Yeah, when the double booking happened last time, I promised you it would be fixed, and it has been fixed. We have a master calendar. It's on the district website. The all-county chorus was already on there, and so when the date for science fair was proposed, it was announced just a little prematurely, and so we backed up and we met with all the stakeholders and we did move it. But again, all-county chorus already had the spot. I created that calendar simply so that board members and district staff and the public would not have to choose like we did that one night between events. And so all-county chorus, they got it first.
Let me say this. Navy people, business people, the Rotarians, who are a lot of your doctors, lawyers, et cetera, they were expressing that it is a little difficult to get off on Monday morning to come down to judge, and there are hundreds of judges. I just wish it hadn't happened.
Yeah. Science fair, is it always the first Tuesday of the month or something like that? Is it traditionally always the same Tuesday in the month? Well, if it is, it needs to be marked on the calendar for the next 20 years so this doesn't happen again. Because, I mean, Orange Park Medical Center has given a $30,000 grant. You know, that's a lot of money, and they're giving that to the science fair, so we need to get our ducks in a row. We need to get our ducks in a row with this. The next thing I had on my list here was our legislative platform. We have not compiled it yet, and we will need to in the next coming months. So,
Yeah, and I know you had asked me about FSBA and their legislative priorities, and they did it differently this year.
Right.
They chose only 3.
I have
So
it with me.
I'm not sure if you
Right.
really want to consider that this
But
year.
we don't have to follow exactly what they have, but every district comes up with their legislative platform for the year. And we haven't established one for our Northeast Florida Coalition of School Boards yet. We'll probably work on that or discuss it when we're out there in Tampa next week. But every year, we do need to have a platform. So, and I know that you'll be attending the legislative committee meeting Tuesday afternoon. It's probably like at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock.
How about less testing, more money?
Well, and you know what? That's pretty much what FSBA has, and the ability to levy up to 2 mills. So it sounds like those 3 that they have covers everything. The last thing I had on my list was, it's already been discussed, all this testing. I think we need to set a workshop for sometime in January to address this, and you know, there's other workshops I'd like to see in the future, an allocation, a budget, but those can be in the future. I have to tell you, I love the tagline of Elevate Clay, and I think you're going to take us in the right direction, and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Before you speak, Mr. Sykes, was there anything you wanted to add tonight? No? Okay.
And sorry, one last thing, and we'll promise to get you out of here. Principals have been coming for the last 15 months to every one of these meetings. They dedicate their time every single day. They start so early at 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning, and their day never ends. And as a leader, it's very hard to be a principal in today's educational system due to the accountability. And hats off to them for what they do every single day for our students. Hats off for them for building the capacity and the trust in our teachers. And I always talk about defending your time. How you defend your time, where do you go, what do you do, why do you do it? And I've seen you here for the last 15 months in our board meetings. And I really think that my recommendation tonight, this be your last board meeting, in the sense that I think you can spend this time with your family. I think you can spend this time with your staff, whatever it may be, because there's so many more things that you have to do. You have to have a balance in life. And I know it's hard for me to speak, and my wife will tell you I work 18 hours a day, 19 hours a day, whatever it may be, and that's the realities of it. So tonight I want you to thank you for being here, but at the same time tell you that I had this covered for you. I will be your downfield blocker so you can be with your loved ones, your family members, and your friends, so that we can continue to do the great things in your school every single day that you come and do things for our students. So thank you for what you do, and I look forward to meeting with you and better understanding what you do for our district and how I can better understand to support you in your endeavors.
And thank you. With that, this meeting's adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving.